This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog. VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Patrick Meagher, Dustin Swedelson. VSiN Live.
Poppin'. Make sure you go say hi to us. We'll hit you back. Dustin Swedelson. I'm Patrick Meagher. Brandon, New York City. Of course, our buddy Ryan in Vegas. A whole production here, people. And we've got some good basketball going on right now. Let me just get you caught up. Some top 25 action in college hoops at Michigan, Ann Arbor. 13 Maryland up 24-18 over 17 Michigan. 4:59 to play. That's a good one. People, we'll follow that one as well as the other top 25 matchups today. Just getting underway. Tuscaloosa, shout to Steve Torrey and his son. Bama is hosting Florida. That is a cracker. 5 versus 7 tonight. I'm guessing the total was close to 180 because these two teams like to get buckets. So we will follow that one along as well. Bama was laying about 3 and a hook in that matchup. Over to the NBA, then we'll get to the big stories from the NFL to get the program started. The big guy, Dustin putting your boy in a tough spot. Dinner plans at like midnight tomorrow, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. NBA, I mean, it's almost like he just met me. Anyway, Kings Nuggets, let's go over 235, 234 and a half, somewhere in that range. Kings Nuggets, Jokic might not be playing tonight. Good game. Kings have been playing well. Pistons, Clippers, nobody's playing tonight. The Pistons are laying 4.5 on the road. The Pistons are one of the best teams in basketball over the past 2 months. They continue to win. They've got great chemistry. They've got size. They'll beat your ass. It's Detroit basketball, and it's completely back. So you like to see that. Thunder Grizz with SGA. You know, the conversation I heard somebody earlier talking about because LeBron James scored 50,000 points in his career yesterday. Is he a part of the MVP conversation? Are you drunk? I mean, LeBron an MVP? LeBron is a shell. LeBron's a good basketball player at this point, but he is not the LeBron James that we think of even 5 years ago. And let me ask you this. It's not exactly DiMaggio. What does 50,000 points mean to you? I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1, nothing. I mean, seriously, 50,000. It's like there's no context for he scored 50,000 points, but you got to jump on and be like, oh my gosh, can you believe it? If you told me today he had scored 100,000, I'd say sure. If you told me he had scored 20, I'd say sure. Like, why would my brain know how many points he scored over 20 years? It doesn't make any sense. But congratulations to LeBron. Just a tremendous accomplishment there, 50K. NFL, as the big guy jumps in the mix here. Some big news today. The Seattle Seahawks are going to run the football a lot next year. I promise you that. Why? They don't have any receivers. They just released Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf has requested a trade. It got me thinking. 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. Current day top 10 receivers.
Oh.
Got me thinking. Because DK, I think, is slept on a little bit when you dig into the numbers, and we can do that. But DK Metcalf has requested a trade. You heard an audible groan from one Dustin Swedelson. His odds for his next team, Metcalf is favored to end up with the Packers, 3-1. The Patriots are 5-1 for DK. And then at 7-1, you have the Raiders and Steelers. Okay, so interesting news there. That's the receiver news. Also, Christian Kirk has been released by the Jaguars. So receivers on the market, people. We've got Sam Darnold news. We've got Aaron Rodgers news. But we do welcome in the big guy, the man in black, Dustin Swedelson. What's up?
Someone hating on LeBron James's accomplishments, just underselling yet another thing he's done that Michael Jordan never did, Patrick. Curious why you're doing that.
No, listen, if you think you're going to catch me or trap me in that conversation, you must be drunk, just like scheduling a dinner tomorrow night for like 10 p.m. You know Wait, maybe we can get into it more later, but Dustin has invited me, and I love his girlfriend, so I'm excited to hang out with them. But hello, this show ends at 7. You can't get to anywhere in Los Angeles in less than 2 hours. So we are going to log off. I'm going to get in my whip. I'm going to drive to a restaurant and eat. What time are we eating?
The show ends at 7. We can be eating by 8. We could be there by 7:30, 7:45.
So what time do I get home?
Probably 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's going to be rough for you. Look, you're going to bring Jeezy, right? Jeezy's going to come hang, or she's not going to
She's going to be bitter because I've never left the house, so she's going to be like, where are you going, dude? It's way late.
Yeah, you're the one person in my life that I could say, hey, man, do you want to grab breakfast? And you'd be like, okay. Everyone else would be like, grab breakfast in the morning? Yes. Meet up in the morning? By the time breakfast happens, you've already accomplished like half your day.
Yeah, I'd love to grab breakfast, but instead we're grabbing the opposite of breakfast, which is midnight dinner. All right, so let's do this. We've got odds on Rodgers' next team, odds on Davante Adams' next team. But we'll start with your thoughts, the wide receivers. That's the big news today. And by the way, it's not a great class for wide receivers come spring with the draft. McMillan, he's a physical freak. The kid out of Arizona, he's 6'4", 220, huge. But Burden had a down year. He was thought to be a couple of years ago, like maybe generational. Well, not generational, but, in that conversation of, oh, my gosh, what is he? Igbuka, your boy from Ohio State, apparently didn't have a good combine. And then you got like the Matthew Goldens of Texas. I only bring that up to provide context to, with these big-name wide receivers on the market, I think teams are going to be thirsty for them.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them, right? Diggs is out there coming off the injury. Jamar Chase wants to get paid. But to come up with my top 10, see, the thing that's interesting about that is there's so many tight ends we think of in our top 10. You subtract them from there, and there's some older receivers there, but the DK Metcalf mention is interesting just because, look, Geno Smith's been fine. He's been fine. But is Geno Smith the type of quarterback that maximizes a guy like DK Metcalf, elite speed, elite size? I almost combined speed and size into spies. That should be a thing. I think we should trademark that. But elite speed and size, where you shouldn't be that big, that jacked, and run that fast and be able to like push guys over with the football. So I don't know if DK's in the top 10 in terms of production. In terms of talent, he might be top 5.
Yeah, so we'll put together our list. I think it's a fun one to put together. I was thinking about it earlier today. Free agents right now as far as the wide receiver position, Davante Adams, Stephon Diggs. If you sign Stephon Diggs,
you're not serious.
You're an idiotic franchise. Hollywood Brown, Chris Godwin. Remember, Godwin was freaking awesome before he got hurt this past year.
He's just getting up there in age. It's like, what are you buying at this point? A lot of mileage on that car.
Tyler Lockett, Christian Kirk, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson. So there are a lot of receivers on the market. But the DK Metcalf news is huge today.
Yeah, just because I don't know what they're going to do in terms of stretching the field. I don't know what Seattle's plan is exactly. Letting go of Lockett, who's been a mainstay there and super reliable, not flashy, not special, but Metcalf was like the vertical threat. He's the guy who made things happen through the air, and I know McDonald's is a defensive-minded coach, but I don't know if you're winning that division with low-scoring football games. At some point, you're going to have to throw to win. Losing Metcalf kind of eliminates that from the equation.
Yeah, the Metcalf news, it's funny you brought that up with the McDonald, the head coach, who won 10 games. Remember, Seattle didn't make the postseason, but they won 10 games with the 37, 38-year-old head coach. He did a good job. First year following a Seattle legend and Pete Carroll, and they won 10 games. So, but what does it interests me that Metcalf has requested a trade because it does. Is anybody asking out of Detroit? The answer is no. So no, it does make you start to wonder, all right, did win 10 games. Is there a good vibe in that locker room? I always think about that when starting to think about betting the futures and thinking about next season in the NFL.
But it kind of reminds me of what's going on in Cleveland with Myles Garrett. I love Cleveland stance. Nah, we're not interested. You're under contract. We like you as a player. Not really interested in trading you. That's why we signed you to that deal when we did. And you liked it at the time because you're John Hancock's on the bottom of the paper. So, I don't know. I think it's odd that Seattle's just like, yeah, okay, we'll explore options then. We'll find a fit for you. Why? You agreed to the deal. How about we start holding football players to the contracts they sign and play this thing out? Because if we're making plans, we're making 2, 3, 4-year plans. We can't have people just deciding, I'm not interested in honoring that contract anymore.
Are you doing the program from the Los Angeles SiriusXM studios, or are you doing the program from your front lawn? Because that was get off my lawn with the contract talk.
No,
what
this
the
is
hell
Adam's.
Is wrong with you?
This
Okay,
is
go
Adam
ahead.
Silver's. No, this is Adam Silver type stuff. This is starting to head in that direction of the players just get whatever they want whenever they want. At some point, maybe if a player signs a deal, he should have to, stay there for the length of the deal. I don't know.
Yeah, we just saw it with Jimmy Butler, obviously.
Yeah.
Where he turned and ran. I'll say this. You brought up Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is one of the greats of all time. I do not, and there is heavy interest, apparently, from the Detroit Lions. I can tell you right now, I'm not interested. This team, the Detroit Lions, some of the parts, we do not need to dip that much into the cap with a player like Myles Garrett, as great as he is.
No, especially not when there's other cheaper options out there. Like, you can go get Khalil Mack for like a fraction of the price that Myles Garrett's going to cost, and he'll have just as big an impact opposite Aiden Hutchinson.
Steve Torrey's got a better back than Khalil Mack.
Oh, stop.
What are you talking about?
My point is there are cheaper options that can make an impact, and you still won't have to gut your team financially.
Listen, people, I'm trying to razz the big guy, and
doing a good job.
And it's working.
Doing a good job.
888-MAD-DOG-6, 888-623-3646. We'll keep you updated on the scores going on. Do you have any bets that you wanted to throw out? Because we're going to come back with that top 10 talk on the wide receivers.
So real quick, I just got underway. I love Kyle Filipowski tonight, over 27.5 PRA for Utah. The entire Jazz team is out. Someone's going to have to score. That's one that I really like. And then Peyton Pritchard had just started in Boston. Boston's got no Porzingis, no Tatum. Half the team's out tonight. We're going to go Pritchard over 15.5 points. You can still get it in game. He's going to get 25 to 30 minutes. He should get 16 points for us tonight. That's all I have when it comes to the early action. A few more later, including a bet on a Detroit Piston we can discuss.
All right. Quickly on the quarterbacks. So yesterday, the next domino after Stafford it's very easy to see, is going to be Sam Darnold. Mike Somich, VSiN, professional bettor, the family bets on Discord, by the way. You can find Mike Somich's plays and vsin.com/picks, where you should go first. But he came on yesterday and he said he didn't have a problem with the Vikings not franchising Darnold because he didn't think necessarily the market was going to be robust for him. And I was like, hold on a second. Darnold's 27. Darnold was top 5 in a bunch of categories last year. 15 wins. At 27, that's right around the time you start entering your prime. Maybe he's a little bit of a late bloomer. But the concept that, look, Justin Fields right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are like making it a priority to sign Justin Fields. And by the way, he just turned 26 today. So, when we're talking about Fields being a priority and Darnold's out there lingering, I have to believe the market would be robust. I'm surprised to hear that it's not. But what the Vikings are planning on doing is letting them test the free agent market. They didn't franchise him, and they're hoping to get him for a cheaper price.
It's a dangerous game. It's like walking to a bar with my girlfriend and me being like, all right, see if you can pick up another guy tonight, and I'll see if I can pick up another girl tonight. Here's the problem. She's likely going home with someone else, and I'm going home alone. That's what this feels like to me. The Vikings could learn the hard way that they had it good with Sam Darnold, and then they'll have nothing to show for what was the genius of Kevin O'Connell a year ago by letting him walk for nothing. They should have franchise tagged him, guaranteed he returns, and then found a way to make a deal. Instead, they're now going to go let him talk to the Raiders, where Tom Brady and Pete Carroll are going to try and woo him. Pittsburgh could be in the mix and say, look, we're going to make the playoffs in this division. You're the last piece. We just need you to make a few throws here, and they could pay him more money. I think the Vikings are playing a very dangerous game.
Yeah, they could be. Now, the odds as far as Aaron Rodgers right now. So, Rodgers' next team odds, -110 Giants. All right, so still a favorite to end up with the Giants, and a pretty good favorite because the Steelers are +270. The Raiders are +440. Now, that is an important team to note because Max Crosby, who just got the largest non-quarterback contract in the history of the NFL today, also said he wants the Raiders to sign Aaron Rodgers. Go ahead.
Here is Max Crosby on his podcast, the Rush Podcast, discussing that.
The first year off an Achilles is one of the hardest things to do. You've seen it happen with Kirk. Kirk had a down year. It happened with Aaron. I mean, he struggled, like you said, early on, but he got better as the season went. I think with all the doubt and all the negativity around Aaron Rodgers, he needs to retire, things like that. He's getting cut by the Jets. I think he's going to come back and have I know he's 42 or 41.
Are you going to say MVP?
No, I think he's going to have a big year this year, and I hope it's in our town.
Okay. Understand with the player empowerment and every player having a podcast now, that was very concerted by Max Crosby. He was letting the Raiders organization know, you just gave me the biggest, I am the dude on this team. I have say in this organization. You just gave me $100+ million for 3 years. You're going to sign Aaron Rodgers, and right now the Raiders are plus 440 to get Rodgers.
I think it's the perfect fit. Of all the teams, I think the Raiders make the most sense for Aaron Rodgers.
I actually agree with you.
I think the Giants don't make sense, which is why I want it to happen, because I think it would be a beautiful disaster and would end with the Giants having the number 1 overall pick in a quarterback class a year from now that I think is way better than this season. I want it to be the Steelers. I think the Steelers could be the most fun. Him and Tomlin together, and if there's any chance he can be just a semblance of the MVP he was a few years ago, I think the Steelers could be a really fun ride through the season with that defense, with Pickens. If he brings Adams with him, all of a sudden there's an offense there, but I don't know what he has left in the tank. But when I see 2 personalities and 2 timelines in Pete Carroll and Aaron Rodgers line up like this, it just makes all the sense in the world. You have Pete Carroll, 70+ years old, has to win right away. Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old, has to win right away. They're on the same timeline. They're also both weird dudes, kind of quirky, and I think Pete Carroll knows how to kind of tame the beast that is Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career. So I like the fit all the way around. On the field, off the field, it makes perfect sense for the Raiders. The only question is, what is the % chance that Aaron Rodgers is still a winning football player? I have it at about, 25-30% max that he's still a winning quarterback?
I totally agree with Rodgers and the Raiders being a good fit for a couple of reasons. You just brought up Pete Carroll. He old, all right? Pete Carroll, he's going to be able to deal with Rodgers. Also, it's the Raiders. Here's the thing. The Raiders are super weird. And the Raiders are kind of a fringe team as far as just if the Raiders do something like sign Aaron Rodgers and bring a 75-year-old Pete Carroll in, you just go, that's the Raiders. It's a West Coast team. It's also a team that plays in a dome, so I think that helps with Rodgers' age as opposed to playing outside in New Jersey. You're kind of taking a shot with Carroll to settle in with the culture. Now, Rodgers is anti-culture, but Rodgers isn't going to be there for a couple of years. He's going to be there 1-2 years, and he's going to be out. I don't have a problem with taking a shot.
And he does, Rodgers, just because it's only a couple seasons max, it does allow you to sign him and draft a kid if you want right now, or find a project to work with Aaron Rodgers as the future. It's certainly not Aiden O'Connell. We have seen enough of Aiden O'Connell throwing the football in the NFL.
Aiden O'Connell's a good backup. He's a very good backup.
He is a solid backup quarterback. But you used to joke about this all the time. It was my favorite comp. Mike Glennon's the type of guy that gets GMs fired because the GM sits around and goes, I think I can make that guy a starter.
Yeah, you try to talk yourself into the neck.
Yeah, that's what Aiden O'Connell is. You're like, I think I could win football games with that guy. And then you find out you can't. I think Aaron Rodgers with the Raiders, the only one roadblock is, and I think he would check his ego for this, would Aaron Rodgers be willing to play for a team partially owned by Tom Brady? Would that be a roadblock, or would that be something that he looks forward to?
Oh, no, I don't think they have a bad relationship. By the way, Devontae Adams plus 165 to end up back with the Packers, which is wild. Plus 550, so 5.5 to 1 would end up with the Chargers. So the Packers for Devontae Adams are pretty sizable favorites when you look at the second betting favorite. It doesn't get the juices flowing for me. I think Devontae Adams has been great, but last year certainly left something to be desired.
I mean, the spots that jump out for me for Adams, the Chargers plus 550, your second shot. Get Justin Herbert that number one so Ladd McConkey doesn't, get knocked out of the league in 2 years like Chris Borland from concussions. The Rams at plus 750. If they swap out Cooper Kupp for Devontae Adams, that feels like a massive upgrade. And the other team, the Broncos. Bo Nix needs a number one. I think he makes a lot of sense. I don't know if he'd go to the Steelers. And I guess with Adams, the big question is he a tag team partner of Aaron Rodgers, or is he his own man and willing to go to another organization without A-Rod?
I see what you did, because generally when we're talking slot receivers, we compare them to other white slot receivers.
Yes.
You compared concussions with other white guys too.
Well, yeah, I'm progressive, but not that progressive, just different positions. And by the way, Chris Borland, he is the Mia Khalifa of the NFL. Short run, was dominant, but unfortunately left too soon with a lot left on the table.
All right, so that's the NFL news and notes. I want to get into that wide receiver top 10 because there are plenty available in free agency. Let's take a couple calls and we'll come back with that top 10 conversation here on VSiN Live. Remember, you can sign up right now to become a VSiN Pro. A ton of college basketball games tonight, a ton of NBA games, a ton of hockey games. You want the picks? It's simple. It's $1.58, VSiN.com/subscribe, promo code SERIOUS. I'm serious. Check it out. Los Angeles, a rainy Los Angeles. Nick joins us. Hi, Nick.
Hey, how's it going? Big time rain. Hey, in terms of Myles Garrett, I know you were saying, it wouldn't make sense for Detroit to take him or give up the farm to get him. And I'm not a Detroit fan, but could you make the argument that if you're in the top 3 or 4 teams in the NFC, you have to try and get him because the overcome of facing the Eagles with him would be too great? In other words, is he the type of player that changes the top 3 or 4 players in the NFC in an arms race where, you have to make a play to get him because the idea of him going to your adversary is so hard to, deal with?
You know what, Nick? I think I'll be honest with you. With my friends in Detroit, I will say I think I'm in the minority here. I would say it's 90-10. They want the Lions to be aggressive about Myles Garrett. And again, Myles Garrett's a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's an all-timer. The Eagles are only getting better. They keep re-signing, keep getting creative with their contracts as well. Yeah. So they're
in on Garrett too.
You know what? I'll have to think about it, Nick. I'm going to think more about Garrett because if the Eagles get Myles Garrett, Nick just maybe flipped me. Because if it's just about blocking Garrett from going to the Eagles, I guess we could use him, and then you have a bookend of Hutchinson and Myles Garrett. It's not bad.
No, that's going to be right up there. The problem is that defense down the stretch was so banged up. What did it lack? It had no depth. They didn't have guys to step in when one injury happened, and it was just a revolving door in the secondary when it mattered the most late in the season. Is it worth tying up all that money at one guy who could go down any time with an injury, or is it worth spreading that around the defense and getting you some depth and some help across the board? That way you don't have the same thing happen that happened a year ago, because there's no reason that team should not have been playing in the NFC title game.
The wide receiver news today got me thinking. I think my top 5 is going to be pretty surprising. Top 10 wide receivers, current day NFL. And 888 Mad Dog 6, 888 623 3646. Because it starts to get weird after 3 or 4, where you can have some fun with it. DK Metcalf has requested a trade. Is he in that top 10? Tyler Lockett, 10 years in, not in the top 10, but a very useful receiver in his career with Seattle. Christian Kirk now available. And on with the list of wide receivers. 888-623-3646. Just getting started on a Wednesday. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
All right, great 4 minutes.
Great. Dustin.
VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson. is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, coming out of the break in Ann Arbor, a 13-17 matchup, Maryland and Michigan. Maryland went to the break up 11. It's 33-24 as we're just getting started. Maryland leads. That'd be a tremendous win for a Maryland team that's been a surprise this year. Great offense, obviously. Steve Torrey not happy, as last night his Indiana Hoosiers went to Oregon on an Indiana night and got pummeled. Well, they got beat by 11, but that still doubles, or 9, somewhere in there. Florida, 27-23 over number 7 Alabama right now. Great matchup. You know Torrey's dialed in right now. Maybe a couple of gummies watching his son's Alabama team take on Florida right now. Florida looking to come off and bounce back from a loss over the weekend, big guy.
Well, that was a tough game. I didn't end up having a bet in it because you had Alabama coming off one of the worst losses you're going to see all year long. The way they lost to Tennessee down the stretch off that buzzer beater, but it was like everything that led up to the buzzer beater, doing everything wrong, not holding a lead right. And then Florida, the more balanced team, but I thought it was a spot for Alabama, so I just stayed away from it. But if you look at the metrics, Florida across the board might be the most balanced team outside of Auburn we have going right now. So they're up 27-23 on the road in Tuscaloosa. That could be a big win for them late in the year.
Okay. 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. Now, here's what I want to do. From you on the phones, I want your top 3 wide receivers in the NFL. The big guy and I will go 10 through 3, but I want your top 3 because the top 3 is fascinating to me. Like, who you decide to put in the top 3. Now, why are we having the wide receiver conversation today? Because Tyler Lockett got released by the Seattle Seahawks. DK Metcalf has requested a trade from the Seattle Seahawks. Christian Kirk released, Dustin, from the Jaguars. Trying to think, Devontae Adams is a free agent. Stephon Diggs is available. Hollywood Brown is available. There's a lot of receivers that are going to be in the market that people are going to go after.
Yeah, and like, how often does paying one of these guys work out? Obviously, it has to happen at the right age, but you think about DeAndre Hopkins going to Arizona, like older years, the contracts just don't work. Now he's in Kansas City. You always question like when that fall off comes for these receivers, and a lot of times I wonder how much of these receivers benefit from obviously the quarterback, but the system they're in. Like, I have a guy I just jotted off the top of my head, my top 10, a guy at number 6 who I really like. But I don't know if he's the number 6 receiver in the league or if he's in a system that benefits him perfectly, and that's why he finished top 5 in receiving yards a year ago.
All right, so let's do it. Let's start with our 10, and here's how this game is played. You literally just say, if I'm starting a franchise next year for 1 year, who do I want? Okay? I'm starting a team with top 10, and then 888-623-3646. On the phones, I want your top 3. The big guy and I will have a little fun with the back end here. Who'd you have at 10?
Terry McLaurin. I just think when you look at the way he's produced with no help at quarterback over the years, that has to say something about the guy. So I know day one, starting my franchise, I've got a guy who can get it done, and there's no excuses. I don't have help on the other side. I don't have an elite guy throwing me the football. I'll still put up yards. So Terry McLaurin, my number 10.
Scary Terry comes in at 10 for the big guy. I had Brian Thomas Jr. at 10. A rookie went off in Jacksonville. If I'm starting a team next year, I think the sophomore is going to be hella good, to use the term out here in California. All right? Who do you got at 9?
Number 9, I'm not going to hold it against him that the guy throwing him the football did not throw him the football enough, and that's A.J. Brown. I still think A.J. Brown is a physical specimen. He's one of the best yards per catch guys in the NFL still. He's dynamic. He can make plays in space. He can take short stuff a long way. That matters to me in today's NFL. The numbers don't show what he's capable of being, but I've got A.J. Brown coming in at 9.
I had A.J. Brown at 9 as well. Simpatico, I think he's overrated.
He's a little overrated, but he's still number 9.
I think A.J. Brown's overrated. So I had him at 9. Who did you have at 8?
So similar to Terry McLaurin, the reasoning's the same for this guy. I mean, he had Zach Wilson throwing him the football, still had 1,000 yards. He had Mike White. He had Aaron Rodgers up and down. It's Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, if he can get some consistency at the quarterback position, he's super reliable. I just think, like, complete receivers, he's right up there. We just need a better offense to show what he's capable of being. So Garrett Wilson's my number 8.
I had Nico Collins at 8.
Oh, it's a good call.
Nico Collins at 8. And I don't listen. A down year from the quarterback his sophomore year, but I think Collins is a difference maker, and I had to put him at 8.
He had 1,000 yards in 12 games. I mean, that's pretty crazy when Stroud really wasn't throwing the football well. So, I mean, that makes sense.
Okay, who'd you go 7? I want to get your top 3 on the phones, 888-623-3646, because my assumption is the top 2 are a lock at this point as far as wide receivers, but what order you have the top 2 in is fascinating, and then number 3 is also fascinating. So let's hear who you got. All right, who do you have at 7?
Yeah, number 7, I think I've slept on this guy for a while and didn't just realize how special he is, but that's CeeDee Lamb. He had 1,700 yards 2 years ago with Cooper Rush last season. He had almost 1,200 yards. Super productive. I guess the one knock against him is he's mostly operating out of the slot. I'd prefer a guy on the outside who gets those one-on-one matchups and burns people down the field. But CeeDee Lamb, you can't deny the production. He's a special player. He's going to get paid. 25 years old. He's my number 7.
Okay, my number 7, 654-321. My number 7 is Scary Terry McLaurin.
Ooh, higher than me. Wow.
Terry McLaurin, last year with a quarterback, we finally got to see what a wide receiver 1 looks like in Washington, and that's McLaurin. Now, if they were rumored to be in the mix for T. Higgins. T. Higgins got franchised yesterday by Cincinnati. If McLaurin, and they're going to get him help. They just got him Deebo Samuel, and Samuel's going to be motivated. Say whatever you want about him, but he is going to be motivated. I think, again, I'm drafting these receivers for next year, and if McLaurin – who else were they throwing the ball to? Zach Ertz? De'Ami Brown? Like, McLaurin put up those numbers without any help. McLaurin, to me, if he has a big-time receiver opposite of him, could be higher on this list, is what I should say.
Yeah, but also for years, he's had 1,000 yards every year since 2020. In 2019, his rookie year, he had 919 in 14 games. And defenses knew every time they were dropping back to throw, the goal was get him the ball in space somehow. So, I mean, you also talk about a guy who was a third-round pick. Like, you want to see if there's value in the draft? You can find your number 1 in the third. Washington did that with McLaurin. Your rating's probably closer to fair than mine.
Okay. What are we at, 6?
Yes.
All right, who'd you have at 6?
So I love this player. I love the production. He's been awesome the last few years, 1,200 yards a year ago, 12 touchdowns. The problem is I think he's force-fed the ball in the system, so maybe he's not quite top 3, top 4. But I went Amon-Ra St. Brown. I really like him. I like what he does, but he's almost like a running back at the receiver position with the amount of screens and short stuff that he catches, then he gets the chance to make plays with it. It's unique. It's different. And I think you could throw him the ball 10 to 12 times a game very easily, and he'll never wear down. So because of that, I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 6.
I had Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 6 as well. Simpatico. He is, if you watch him week to week, he's more diverse than you would think. You can use him inside. He can stretch the field on the outside. He's tough as hell. He's a great football player. And if you compare his numbers and what he's done in his first however many years with Detroit to Megatron, they're very similar. And Megatron's an all-time great. So 6 might even be light for Amon-Ra.
Well, if you're going to talk about value to the offense, they've run the offense through him. Like, he is the focal point of the offense. It's just get him the ball, let him do something, and we'll work off of that. And you don't see that often in football where they build the offense on short stuff to one guy like that.
All right, number 5, big guy.
So this one stinks for me because if this guy could stay healthy, I think he would be top 3. He'll probably be top 3 for you, and that's Puka Nacua. I love Puka Nacua, but the injuries last year, I have some concerns. He was injured in college a lot, but the rookie year was stupid. 105 receptions, almost 1,500 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's just a physical specimen playing receiver. He almost looks like a strong safety running back an interception when he catches the ball and starts running with it. He's just such a physical presence. If he can prove that he's healthy, he'd be top 3 for me, but I just have questions about that. So
Remember
Nakua's
when we
number
used to
5.
You remember when we used to work with that donk and he used to give things away on the list out of insecurity because he was nervous about people not thinking he had the right list? Why'd you just do that to me with Puka? Oh, you're probably going to have him top 3. Oh, thanks, buddy. Can't you just give yours?
Okay, I had nothing to say there, so I said that because I know you have a love affair with him.
All right. By the way, I botched it. I just added up my top 10. I have 9.
11? So maybe
I
he
had
won't be
CD
top
Lamb
3.
next. I had
Okay.
CD Lamb next. I think the production of CD Lamb is undervalued. You mentioned he went for 1,700 yards a couple of years ago. He's had nobody throwing him the football. They use him myriad ways. Is he the fastest guy on the field? No, but he's tough. He catches everything. I think he's an underrated wide receiver. I think CD Lamb's got to be in the mix. He's a legit wide receiver 1.
Yeah, he just did it with Cooper Rush, too. Like, he got it done with
That's
Cooper
what I'm
Rush.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
That's a big sign that you're just different than other dudes. Because other receivers back in the day used to make excuses about their quarterbacks. Not these new guys. They're different.
Who'd you have at 4?
So number 4 is Tyreek Hill for me. A lot of that is the fact that Tua wasn't healthy and they didn't have anything else there. But Tyreek Hill's number 4. And also, I think we may be on the back end of Tyreek Hill's career. I'm not sure he's what he used to be. Remains to be seen. I have questions about that. But right now, Tyreek Hill's still in that top 5, sitting at number 4 for me.
You nailed it. That was that's the guy I left off, but he is 4. If I'm starting a team next year, Tyreek Hill. I worked with Michael Lombardi, obviously the former general manager. He's now the general manager at North Carolina for years. And now, you're right. Is it maybe a year or 2 past his absolute prime? I'm not so sure. But Lombardi would just say, hands down, he's the best wide receiver in football because you have to plan for him so much differently than anybody else. He changes the game. He flips the field. He tilts it. So, yeah, I think Tyreek Hill at 4 is perfect. Now to our top 3. We're going to come back with these. 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. So I am curious. You are starting a team next year, and you've got to pick your top 3 wide receivers in the National Football League. Who are you going with? Just quickly on the mentions that didn't make it but were very close to my top 10 list, the aforementioned DK Metcalf was right on the fringe. Garrett Wilson, for me, was right on the fringe. Smith with Philly was right on the fringe. Are there any fringe guys you want to throw in?
Yeah, DJ Moore was on my list where I just couldn't find a way to put him in my top 10, but with him playing that Amon-Ra St. Brown role this year with Chicago, he may make it next year. Devontae was a possibility. Zay Flowers was a possibility for me.
Zay's a good one.
Drake London, I think people underestimate the production and also just the physicality of the guy. Those were the ones right on the edge for me that didn't make my top 10.
Drake London stinks. Zay's a great call. Drake London. Who are we calling slow? If CD's slow, Drake is slower.
He is, but like it works in the NFL.
He's big. He's a big body. He's a big.
All
dude.
I saw him do was make Desmond Ridder not look, and Desmond Ridder stunk. Made him not look as bad because he would catch these 50-50 balls that no one else was able to catch.
All right, our top 3 along with yours, 888-623-3646 coming up. Top 3 wide receivers in football today. Metcalf's available. He requested a trade. Tyler Lockett's available. He got released. Christian Kirk got released. And it's not a great wide receiver class come the spring NFL draft. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Yeah, 4 minutes here.
And Dustin Swedelson. Now back to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. Looking for your top 3 wide receivers, current day NFL. A lot of wide receivers on the free agent. Remember, free agency opens up Monday. So you're going to start to hear some news starting to trickle out with what teams are going to do as we get later in the week. You can take the VSiN app and VSiN with you anywhere, anytime. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today. Stay connected to the action wherever you go with the VSiN Watch app. Available on your phone, tablet, and smart TV. Watch the VSiN Watch app. You'll get 24/7 live access to our audio and video streams, replays of your favorite shows so you never miss a moment. Big screen streaming straight to your smart TV. Quick access to clips by sport tailored to your interests. Watch VSiN anywhere. Download the VSiN Watch app today. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Maher. Okay, time for our top 3. You gave it away, so I'm going to go there. I think Puka Nacua is a Hall of Famer. And again, I'm in Los Angeles, so it's local, but we all can see every single game, so I'm not pretending like I've seen more than anybody else. I'm just going to point to last year, the playoff game in Detroit, and I don't even know if he had crazy numbers. I just remember watching and thinking, that dude is different. I don't even know how to explain what I'm watching, but he's so fast. He's so physical. He catches everything. He's so tough. Puka Nacua. And by the way, there's a pretty clear top 2, obviously. But Puka Nacua, for me, is a hell of a lot closer to the top 2 than anybody else. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, we've never seen, I don't know if we've seen anyone built like him at the position, 6'2", 212, kind of like a bowling ball, almost plays like a fullback running through people when he has the ball in his hands. But he's quick, he's fast, he has great hands, he goes up and gets it. He's a presence you have to be aware of at all times. And I love dudes that can take the ball in space, either make a guy miss or break a tackle, and all of a sudden they take it to the house. That's what Puka Nacua is every single game.
Puka Nacua, to me, I mean, you got to give credit to scouting department, Les Snead, and the front office there with the Rams, because they found if he is healthy, they found a Hall of Famer. I freaking love Puka Nacua. Who's your number 3?
Okay, so my guy is, I like to refer to him as a kingmaker, because you go through his long career. He's 31 years old. All he's done is turn guys into something more than they really are at that point in their career. And that's Mike Evans down in Tampa. Mike Evans.
Totally forgot about Mike Evans.
Mike Evans is a freaking kingmaker. When you think about Johnny Manziel and winning the Heisman and what we thought he was, then Mike Evans left and he came down to earth. And I know there was other things with Manziel, but how many times was the play, hey, Johnny, run around and throw it up in the air for Mike Evans? You know who followed that same strategy? Jameis Winston. You know who followed that later in his career? Tom Brady. And you know who's doing it right now, and he's been the biggest reclamation project in the NFL, Baker Mayfield? You think Mike Evans and his ability to just make plays on the football is the reason why Baker Mayfield is the guy he is right now, why Tom Brady at the end got the Buccaneers back and won a Super Bowl when in New England at the end he looked horrible? Mike Evans, to me, is going to go down as one of the all-time greats. I wish he was in his prime so I could put him at 1 or 2, but unfortunately, he is just number 3 for me.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. That blind spot, it's almost like when I was talking about Gene Hackman. Mike Evans is the Gene Hackman for me of wide receivers, because the numbers will tell you first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know why. I've just never – his raw skills don't drive you – he doesn't pop off the screen, but he'll top end the ball. He'll make tough catches. His numbers are out of control. I can't believe I left him off my top 10. That's on me. That's like when I said Gene Hackman wasn't a top 10 guy. I've gotten like death threats for saying Gene Hackman. And again, I was wrong. People started telling me more about the Gene Hackman roles, and I'm going to tell you, he's probably a top 7 guy, let alone top 10. And that's how I feel about Mike Evans. I woefully underrated him. You're 100% right. He's not that fast. You don't really think of him as doing much, but you turn around and his numbers are insane.
I mean, name a better red zone receiver in our lifetime. Like Randy Moss, that's it. Like that's the list. Randy Moss, Mike Evans. Okay, pretty good company to be in if you're Mike Evans. I just think he covers up so many mistakes for a quarterback because he can catch anything if he just throws it in his vicinity.
No, you're right. I botched it. Now, I don't think Mike Evans was – I don't know if he and Gene Hackman were cool. A little bit of an age difference. But the two of them are in the same room for me. Hackman, Evans.
You're right. You're right. In their careers, you never said that's the best one doing it right now.
Yeah, he's not. Hackman's not as flashy as a De Niro, but he's just steady. Every role he's going to be great, and he ends up as an Oscar winner a few times.
Yeah, not quite the compiler that Burt Blyleven was, but very successful. Yeah, they had the longevity matters here. Very, very good for a very, very long time.
Who's your number two?
So I went Jamar Chase. I mean, this is so anticlimactic. I mean, Chase. Oof. Honestly, you might be able to make the case he's number one simply because he's not big. What is he, like 5'9"? And he goes up and gets it. He makes every single play. He can line up anywhere in the route tree, run anything that you want. Takes the short stuff long, 50-50 balls deep. He's going to catch touchdowns. He's a dynamic guy. He's a go-to guy. Does he benefit a little from T. Higgins? Yeah. Does he benefit a little bit from Joe Burrow? Yeah, but he'd be special anywhere.
All right. I think you might have just convinced me to flip it up, but remember, Jamar Chase he went triple crown on us last year.
Yeah, he did.
Most receptions, most yards, and most touchdowns. So I had Jamar Chase at 1.
Okay.
But the more I think about it, Justin Jefferson, look, I don't know how you discern between Jefferson and Chase. Except Chase has had the benefit of having Joe Burrow throwing him the football, and as you mentioned, T. Higgins opposite. Gosh. I probably gun to head starting a team next year would go Jefferson 1. So I'll flip it. I'll go with you. Jamar Chase 2, Jefferson 1.
So the reason I made Jefferson 1, and this is like my argument for a lot of these guys when I separate them. So 2023, he had 1,074 yards in just 10 games. So just 10 games. Still averaged 15.8 yards per reception, had 5 touchdowns, 107.4 yards per game, which is actually his most. Why is that relevant? Well, there was only 8 games where Kirk Cousins played. Then it was Nick Mullins, it was Josh Dobbs, it was Jaron Hall. So even with all those backups, he was able to produce. And I think when you look at how you build a receiver, size, speed, the ability to do everything, I'm not sure we've seen a complete receiver like Justin Jefferson where he can go X, he can go Y, he can go Z, and he's just as dangerous in every single spot, and defenses have to be aware of him. That's why I went Jefferson 1.
Yeah, I think you're right. As I'm thinking about the list, Jamar Chase is pretty spectacular. I mean, those two, okay, everybody would agree that those two that's one tier. And then for me, it's the Puka tier. And then I start getting into my third tiers. That's how much I respect Puka. Puka's in a second tier by himself for me.
Yeah, the real question is, how are these two at LSU at the same time and they only won one national championship? That's the question.
And the real answer is Ed Ogeron.
Yeah. Somehow that dude backed into a national title. It's one of the great stories of all time.
It's almost on par with Gene Chizik.
It's you know what? Gene Chizik is Ed Orgeron without the charm, without the fun.
No. Ed Ogeron is Gene Chizik without the shirt. Because he literally doesn't wear a shirt.
He still hasn't put one on.
All right, so there it is. I don't think anybody would dispute it. Chase and Jefferson are going to be alone. You can argue either, but if Jefferson had Joe Burrow throwing him the football, I think we'd be having a different conversation.
Yeah, but the key note is no DK Metcalf, no Devontae Adams on either of our lists.
Devontae had a down year. Devontae, two years ago, yes. I was just like, people don't realize how spectacular he is. Even that first year with the Raiders, he was spectacular. But maybe you get down on players because of how they act as well. And he's a little petulant.
I don't know what he has left. I think it may not be his fault that we haven't seen it, but I don't know what he has left. These guys that are on our top 10, they produced last year. That's why I was able to go with them. But with Devontae, he probably has plenty left. It's been a minute since we've seen it.
It's been a minute. So, again, we went through these top 10 as far as the wide receivers, because if you look, the free agency, Dustin mentioned Adams. Adams, by the way, is favored to return to the Green Bay Packers in the odds market. Stephon Diggs. It never made sense when Houston made that move.
No.
It just never made sense. Buffalo couldn't wait. The production Diggs gives you, and for Buffalo to be fine with him leaving, should have told Houston everything. And Houston had great vibes coming out of that playoff year the year before. I don't think there was any reason to add Stephon Diggs, and now Stephon Diggs is out there in the market as well. Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Lockett got released today. Christian Kirk got released today. Amari Cooper's going to be available. DK Metcalf has requested a trade. So come Monday, there's going to be a lot of movement in the wide receiver market. Coming up next, our buddy and professional handicapper Aaron Halterman joins us. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson. Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Coming up at 9:30 Eastern on NBA Radio, the Oklahoma City Thunder, winners of 4 straight, travel to Memphis to take on the Grizzlies in a Western Conference showdown. Hear all the action on SiriusXM NBA Radio Channel 86 in your car or wherever you are on your SiriusXM app. As we welcome you back, I'm Patrick Maher, the big guy Dustin Swedelson. We're going to welcome in our friend, professional handicapper Aaron Halterman in a second. Let me get you caught up. Couple things. Remember, we are now streaming live on YouTube. Here's what we need, people. We got to get the algo going. Once it gets sucked into the vortex of the algorithm and new people start to find the show, They'll save it, they'll follow, and we'll create more of a family here. But it's going to take a while to build. So let's spread the word. Stop by, say hi in the comments, and the big guy will hit you back. Michigan right now trails by 3, 57-54. Although it looks like Maryland just got a bucket. So 59-54, 13 Maryland at 17 Michigan. A great matchup with 7 minutes to play. 59-54, Maryland leads. At the break, Florida, Alabama. Florida's up 41-40. Go ahead, Dustin, grab the halftime number there. Florida at Steve Torrey's Alabama team. Torrey's got a lot of teams. One son went to Colorado, daughter went to Indiana, and then now his youngest son goes to Alabama. But here's one thing you know about Steve Torrey. He does have a favorite. It's his daughter, because he likes Indiana basketball the most, of Colorado, Indiana, and, of course, now Alabama.
Well, I think they were first, and also they're the best, like, historically of those teams.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you have a second-half number, Florida, Alabama?
Yeah, Bama's laying 3.5. Your second-half total is 94.5 between these two teams.
No surprise. No surprise there with two teams that get buckets. That's a crazy you know what? I might bet that under just because.
It made 81 in the first half.
Yeah, and that's crazy.
Florida's good at defending the three. Like, at some point, I think that pays dividends here on the road for them. You're not going to slow down Alabama completely because they shoot so much volume-wise, but you can limit them enough here. So I think the under would make sense.
Dustin Vitale with the college basketball. How about the big guy? The big guy put me in a tough spot again tomorrow when the program ends. It's a Thursday, last time I checked. Mm-hmm. And, he's booed up now. Just ask him. He's got a wonderful girl, and I've met her. She's tremendous. That doesn't mean I want to hang out with the two of them. However, he said, I'd like to hang out with her, but without him there. You understand? Let me take a shot. I'll pack a big lunch.
That's a compliment. You don't understand.
Yeah. So the big guy said, "Hey, I'm coming to LA for a couple of weeks," because he's a mover and a shaker now. Sorry, Aaron. We'll come to you in a second. So he said, I'm coming to LA for a couple of weeks. You want to grab dinner? And look, it's my friend. I said yes. If the Pope came to Los Angeles and said, I don't even know. If Sydney Sweeney, give me a name. It has nothing to do with human beings. It has everything to do with not wanting to leave my house. Instead, I am leaving the house at 7 tomorrow night to drive to go to dinner. That's something.
If Winston Churchill was in town, you would leave your house.
If Winston was here, there is good possibility he's a great human. All right. As we welcome in another great human, he can settle a few things for us. He's Aaron Halterman, racingdudes.com, of course, a contributor over at VSiN as well. The picks are always up there, vsin.com/picks. He does a great job. He's the plus money prince because all he does is hunt numbers. Let's see. Now, you know me. You know my aversion to going out. What your thoughts on Dustin? And Los Angeles is a commuting city as well. It's going to take me about 2 hours to get to where we're going. So 7 o'clock, dinner starts at maybe a little after 8. I'm home by 10:30. That's a rough Thursday.
Selfish of Dustin in this case, I believe, guys. Honestly, got to take Patrick's side. Dustin, you're coming on the road. You need to do what the host wants to do. Maybe he wanted to do something different, right? And did you pick a place 2 hours away on purpose? That's what I want to know.
No, he's exaggerating. It's going to be like 30 minutes for both of us. He's ridiculous. But here's the sick thing, Aaron, is he's the only person I said, if I would have said to him, instead of dinner, do you want to meet at 8 a.m. for breakfast? He'd be like, absolutely, that's perfect. But instead, dinner's too late for him because he's been going to bed at like 9 p.m., maybe 8:30 p.m. for like 10 years now.
I'm 47. I'm old.
You're
go
not
to bed
60
early.
yet. Jesus.
I go to bed early. Thanks for having my back, Halterman.
I go to bed early. Yeah.
It would have been rude of me to be in LA for 2 weeks and not tried to meet up for dinner.
Totally.
How about that?
True.
But here's what you should have done. You should have said, "Hey, would have been rude of me not to ask, but just say no."
But I know the answer.
And I would have been like, "Cool, thank you. I appreciate that." But as my therapist says, once I actually do it, I'll enjoy it. So
yeah, no, that's the gym. That's literally the gym. I I don't mind being at the gym. It's the thought of having to get up and go and get dressed that I dread, which is why it takes me forever to get there.
Yeah. All right. Well, we were just debating because DK Metcalf requested a trade Aaron Halterman and Tyler Lockett was let go. Christian Kirk. There's going to be a lot of wide receivers on the move come free agency. We were debating the top two, and it's either Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. We kind of came down with Jefferson because Chase has had Burrow the whole time, but Chase did just go triple crown, receptions, touchdowns, and yards this past year. Who would you pick as the number one wide receiver right now?
I don't think you can go wrong with either one, but I think your theory or kind of your thoughts, I think that is accurate. Do we really know the ceiling for Justin Jefferson? I don't think so. I don't think we can, and listen, he's had quarterback play that's been okay to good and then bad, right? But it hasn't just been awful the whole time. But what happens when he's with someone that's truly, maybe not even elite, just a good, solid, consistent quarterback? I think I got to lean Jefferson because, like you said, with Joe Burrow, he's going to make guys look good. And Chase is great. Don't get me wrong, but I would lean Jefferson in this spot. I really would. I'm very curious to see what he does if he went somewhere that had a big-time quarterback.
Well, how about this? Your team needs some receiver help. I'm very curious about where the Kansas City Chiefs fit in some of these receivers that are out there via trade, free agency. Feels like a spot these guys would want to go. I'm looking at the odds on DraftKings for Devontae Adams' next team. Chiefs are 11-1. DK Metcalf, I don't see the Chiefs listed. Do you think your team could get in the mix and maybe make a deal like this?
I would say yes, but they just haven't done that. Remember, the Tyreek Hill era was great in Kansas City and he was fantastic. And he went to Miami and he's put up decent enough numbers, but it hadn't worked out. But I think everybody kind of assumed, okay, Tyreek, they let him go. They didn't want to pay him. Give him a year or two. They're going to get somebody else. And they've really kind of went the route of we're going to kind of scrape by with these middle of the road type guys or guys that are veterans that they kind of look like they're washed up and then they get to Kansas City and they get a little bit of life. That's kind of what they've done. Or they've went young or they've went through the draft and tried to get guys. So a lot of me or a big part of me saying, okay, Kelsey's getting old. He is coming back. We know that now, but it's not going to be forever. You need to go get that next big time guy. Jefferson would look amazing, I think, in a Kansas City uniform and in that offense. But I can't sit here and confidently say that they're going to go out and get one because they just haven't done it.
Well, also, if you look at it, DeAndre Hopkins, I think it's pretty clear he's not going back to the Chiefs. Maybe you two can correct me, Dustin, if you know anything else. Plus, DeAndre Hopkins might retire. Now, is DeAndre Hopkins Devontae Adams is obviously in a better place as far as athletically than DeAndre Hopkins right now. Are they that much difference as far as age? Hopkins is 32.
Adams is 29, I believe.
Hopkins is 32. Okay, so 29.
Different styles, though. Hopkins' whole thing was like going down, going up and getting those 50-50 balls downfield, stretching the field. Adams is a guy you can hit over the middle a million times, and he'll just be reliable. They're a little different, but I would.
Devontae's 32.
He's 32. I thought he was 29.
Yes, he's 32. I thought DeAndre Hopkins and Adams are legitimately both 32 years old. Would you want Hopkins to return to your Chiefs? And do you have any interest in Devontae Adams, Mr. Halterman?
I kind of felt like Hopkins was kind of disappointing. I thought as he went on, he would be a lot more productive than what he was. I gave him the benefit of the doubt the first few weeks. It's hard in the middle of the season, to come in. But I think, Dustin, what you said, I think is kind of accurate. And I think it kind of, Devontae Adams might fit what the Chiefs like to do a little bit more than Hopkins. Hopkins is kind of like the old regime of the Chiefs, even though it's the same players, but that old offense of down the field a lot and running a lot of go patterns. This just seems like a possession type of team, and I do think Adams kind of fits that a little bit better. Like I said, and a lot of it might just be I was underwhelmed with Hopkins. I just didn't think they got what I thought they would get out of him. So I would try to take a shot with Adams if that's somewhere that he would want to go. I think it would make a lot of sense. I think he'd be a good fit.
Yeah, DK Metcalf would be the fun one. Because have that speed size combo for Mahomes to go back to throwing those balls. Like, look, I get it. You just want to win football games if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. There's something to that old style that you referenced with Tyreek Hill where, look, we're going to drop back. Our guy's going to run in a straight line faster than your guy can run backwards, and he's going to score a 60-yard touchdown just about every time.
Yeah, and that guy's a freak. He really is. And I don't know what, like when he was first coming, like breaking through, say year 2, 3-ish, you kind of looked at him and thought, this guy's the next guy in this league. He's huge. He's fast. And I say that he's been okay for sure. Like he's been better than okay, but he's been a little disappointing. And I would, based on like the potential that I thought he could get. So I think that the Chiefs would be very interested to kind of see what he would do, because that is a freak of an athlete. I don't know if he's a great wide receiver, but he's one of the best athletes I think I've ever seen. So I'm with you. I think he would be extremely interesting, and he's got to be better. They've got to get more out of him than what they've gotten out of him in Seattle.
Yeah, he is freakish. You're 100% right. And imagine, see, here's the thing. If you want to take something away from Geno Smith, okay, I think Geno Smith's a little bit better than most, but I'm fine with you knocking him. Patrick Mahomes to DK Metcalf, there could be something there. That'd be ridiculous. High point in the ball, back of the end zone. That would be special. That'd be something, Mr. Halterman.
Inject it into my veins now.
By the way, he is right now, DK Metcalf, his next team, the Chiefs, they're not even listed as far as odds. DK Metcalf, he's favored to go to the Packers at 3-1. The Packers have a lot of talent outside. They just don't have a wide receiver one.
Yeah, and they don't have a vet. That's the issue. They're looking for a vet to bring in. Like that's the goal. Speaking of a vet, the name that just popped in my head, what if Stephon Diggs coming off the ACL doesn't get the contract he wants? It feels like Kansas City is that spot that a player like him would go, I'll do a 1-year deal, I'll show I'm healthy, I'll ball out, and I'll get paid on the back end. Would Stephon Diggs off the injury intrigue you at all as a Chiefs fan?
No, not really.
Patrick hates either.
Guys, I don't want to call him a cancer because I don't want to be that guy, but I think he's a problem in the locker room. Go ahead. Yeah.
He's Jimmy Butler.
Yes.
There's always an issue. There's always an issue.
You know, you look at what the Bills did this year, and could they have used him? Yeah, absolutely. But didn't you, when you guys watched the Bills, didn't you just feel like they were a little bit more together? They were a little bit more a team, a unit, whatever, however, like the phrase you want to use it. And with him, it just felt like there was something going on every week that was just kind of annoying.
Yeah, no, 100%. Stephon Diggs. Now, it is almost like rehab when you go to the Chiefs because they are so professional. The reputation does precede. So when you go there, you're kind of on your best behavior just because of the perception of the greatness that is the Chiefs. But I agree. If I was a Chief fan, I'd say I want Mahomes to Metcalf, and I want to make that happen like yesterday. And I think that could be a difference maker on that offense. All right, we're going to get to college hoops with Aaron Halterman and also the NHL. But before we do, and there could be some exciting news coming up as far as coverage of the Kentucky Derby, but why don't we do this? Why don't we talk about the Kentucky Derby from a macro perspective? Because, you know, Dog, the namesake of this channel, even Tori, we used to do Kentucky Derby broadcasts constantly when we were the Rap. Like, people get into the Kentucky Derby. It's just like sometimes they get into it too late. And, you know, they do a great job with the coverage leading up to the race. But can we get an idea? Because we were talking to Samich last night, and he was saying, like, this compared to last year, this crop of runners compared to last year on a totally different level.
100% agree. And we're kind of in the third quarter of the run up to the Kentucky Derby right now. So we're starting to get a really good idea of what we got. Guys, last year, it just wasn't very good at the time of the Kentucky Derby. They got better in the summer and in the fall, but when it was run last year, and Patrick, we did a show, and we were just kind of like, yeah, I don't know about this one. I don't know about this one. He's not great, you know. And I think we gave the field like a C or a D. This feels like it could be an A or a B type of crop. We've got a really nice horse out in California named Journalism. Bob Baffert has 2 horses in California, Barnes and Citizen Bull, that aren't too far behind him. You've got Sovereignty out in Florida, who looks really good for Bill Mott, a great trainer, as you guys know. And then, there's other ones out there. There's other ones looming. Chad Brown's got 2 or 3 running this weekend that I think could be pretty good. So we've got like those top end horses, but then with the second and third kind of string horses right now, I wouldn't be shocked if they can pop up and run a big race and join kind of those headliners. So I think we're cruising towards one of the better derbies we've had probably since the Justify year. And that was 2018.
Yep.
So what are you trying to identify right now between now and the Derby? Is it wins? Is it just finishing strong? Is there specific things within a race that you're looking for from a horse? What are you trying to identify before you decide who will be on your card in the Derby?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely winning is important. It always is important. But the second thing you hit on is actually the most important thing. Horses that are finishing strong at the wire. And why I say that is the Kentucky Derby is at 1.25 miles. Right now, about 90 to 95% of the races that have been run so far have been at 1.16 miles. For a horse, 1.16 miles versus 1.25 miles is a huge difference. So you want horses that when they get to that wire at 1.16 miles, they get to the finish line, they're really starting to hit their best strides. And you can kind of watch them after the finish line and you can see, okay, yeah, they either won or maybe they got close second, but look at them. Look how they're running after the finish line. They're full of energy. It looks like they want to go longer. So that's kind of the main key you're wanting to look at right now. And of course, I mean, it's simple to say we want to see a winner right now, and that's great. But again, for the future and for the Derby, finishing strongly, having a pedigree that says they're going to go 1.25 miles, very, very important. And that's kind of the main thing you're kind of assessing in these middle preps up to the Kentucky Derby.
Okay, give the listeners one name of a horse to keep in mind as we get closer to the Kentucky Derby. Is there a name that stands out on March 5th for you?
Yeah, it's a big standout right now for me, and I'm happy that I've got one on March 5th because I haven't the last few years, well, really since Justify, but Journalism out in California, trained by Michael McCarthy. Journalism last week went up against a horse named Barnes for Bob Baffert. Barnes is named after Jimmy Barnes, the big-time assistant for Bob Baffert, who has been with all of his great horses. They said, we're never going to name a horse Barnes unless we think it's a legit superstar. Journalism beat this horse and beat him easy, and he was galloping out after that wire, like I just talked about, like he wanted to go 2 miles. He was full of energy, and he just dusted a Bob Baffert horse. Journalism got a 108 Beyer speed figure. What that means is that was super good. That's the highest Beyer speed figure for the San Felipe winner since California Chrome back in 2014. California Chrome ended up winning the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness and almost won the Belmont, couple of links behind from being a Triple Crown winner. So I'm over the moon about Journalism right now. He's 9-1 in the future wager books right now. I think he's the real deal. And you'll like this, Patrick. He's by Curlin, who was my favorite horse. It got me into racing. So I'm pumped for Journalism.
Okay, Journalism is the name. So remember, you heard it here a couple of months out, Kentucky Derby. Once you get closer, you can impress your friends at work. Hey, I like this California horse, Journalism, trained by McCarthy. That's all you need to know. You're going to sound like you know what you're talking about. Quickly, updates on the college basketball. Looks like Maryland's going to pick up a big win at Michigan. Maryland leads 69-62 with 21 seconds to go. Michigan just missed a three. Michigan, another three-point opportunity. They hit a three. So Michigan hits a three, calls a timeout. So 69-65. Michigan just cut the lead to 4 with 17 and a half seconds to play. So we got a game, people. We'll keep you updated in real time on that one. Steve Torrey is chilling right now. Probably a good 20 milligrams of gummies in. The back hurts, physical therapy. My man had the flu. He was down bad. He's feeling better. And right now, his Alabama team trails by 2. Florida up 57-55 at Alabama, big guy.
Florida, that's the trendy team. That's the team I keep hearing everyone love. And when you look at the numbers, it looks like they're for real, which always leads me to not want to back them. But a win like this on the road for Florida at Tuscaloosa with that offense, the way it operates, especially for Nate Oates at home, be a massive win. Would definitely solidify them as a 1 seed. I think they're leaning towards being a 1 seed, but this would definitely add to that resume.
Quickly, Ryan, who's our producer in New York City, in Vegas, Brendan in New York City, says somebody on YouTube says Sandman is the horse to watch. Do you have thoughts on Sandman, the horse there, Mr. Halterman?
Sandman has to mentally get better. That's his problem. So, Patrick, you'll know this. The horses by Tappet, and Tappets, as you know, they're kind of they're crazy, right? Early. he has incredible ability. So I think the commenter is spot on with the fact that is Sandman good enough talent-wise to win the Kentucky Derby? I would have to agree. But boy, mentally, he's got some problems. He has trouble getting out of the gate. That's really bad for the Kentucky Derby, as we know, because with 20 horses. And he just kind of runs when he wants to run. Mark Cassie's the trainer. He's a very good trainer. I'm just skeptical that he's going to be mature enough to win the race.
Good breakdown and good job with the comments. You can always comment in real time on our stream, YouTube. Go to VSiN Live on YouTube. Jump in. You get a comment up there, we'll reply. Tappet, one of the best sires over the past 25 years, but his kids tend to be hot-headed. That's the best way to put it. Let's go to the college basketball. Tennessee's laying 2.5 at Ole Miss tonight, and you're going to lay it with the Volunteers.
Yeah, and this is kind of dangerous to bet a team on the road in the SEC. But listen, I think Tennessee is playing about as good as anybody right now. And they kind of went through a midseason kind of swoon where they weren't that great. But, boy, they've really responded. They've done very, very well here as of late. Ole Miss hasn't. They did beat Oklahoma on Saturday. Everybody beats Oklahoma. That's no big deal. But, I just think with Tennessee coming in here and you're only having to lay 2.5, I think they're going to be awfully tough to beat tonight. They beat Alabama. They went on the road and beat A&M and LSU here lately. And A&M beats Auburn last night. So that kind of shows you how that was a great win for Tennessee there at A&M. So I think they go into Ole Miss and get it done. I know it's dangerous, SEC road team. You're going to back them. But I think Tennessee's a lot better team than Ole Miss. So give me Tennessee.
Love it. I love it. I'm starting to buy in on Rick Barnes' team. Real quick, show meeting between the three of us. I know you have one more college basketball play, but I have an idea that I need to hash out momentarily. When Halterman and Samich come on to talk hockey, I want to call that portion of the segment Puck Me Harder. How do we feel about this?
Loyola Chicago is laying 4.5 versus Davidson. And I think you're going to lay it. We'll just move along. Nothing to see here, people. That's the big guy. You're going to lay it with Loyola Chicago tonight.
You got to get out of this dinner, Patrick. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you got to get out of it.
Now you know my pain. Fuck me harder. I mean, seriously, this is my career. It's my career. Respected man.
Well, yeah, okay. I won't touch that debatable. One. So Loyola Chicago.
I guess maybe it is debatable. I'm definitely more respected than the dude that just said "puck me harder."
Yes, that is the truth. By comparison, you always get that by me.
What do you got on this one here, Aaron?
Well, okay, so Loyola Chicago. Sister Jean, she may have said "puck me harder" one of these days. Who knows? But anyway, she's still alive at 105 years.
That's
old.
A woman of the cloth.
Right? So, she's still alive, and I'm going to go with the Ramblers.
Barely.
Well, let's see. What have they been doing? Well, they've been playing well lately, and Davidson has it. They've lost 4 out of 5. They played each other a few days ago at Davidson. Loyola won by 8. You're only laying 4.5 here at home now for Loyola. So let's go Loyola minus 4.5.
Okay, big guy, you still there, or are you thinking a dumb shtick?
I was looking up. Sister Jean is now 105 years old.
Yep.
So,
all right. Okay, but we can all be adults. Of course, she's had sex in her life, unless she is a legit nun. Is she a nun?
She gave her private parts to God.
105 years of no buns?
No way.
That is a DiMaggio-like run.
I would tell you this, though. If she did, we all know, since she's Sister Jean, her preference is missionary.
Wait, that is like Cal Ripken running along and giving high fives at Camden type streak. You understand what I'm saying? I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear the last comment again.
It's true.
St. Louis Blues, pull yourself together, Halterman, plus 140. What do you got here?
Well, listen, it's hockey, so I can pull myself together for hockey. All right, okay, full disclosure, I am a huge St. Louis Blues fan. I don't bet them that often, but they're playing great right now. They're the right price at plus 140. They are on the road taking on the Kings. They beat them at home over the weekend. So, look, Bennington is playing really well, of course, coming off that Four Nations win where he was incredible. He's parlayed that into the back to the regular season. He's playing very well. It's a must-have for the Blues. They're hanging on the edge of the playoff race. They really need to get this one tonight. They match up very well with the Kings. I know going on the road is going to be a problem, but I think the price is right. Plus 140. I think Bennington plays well. I think the Blues are going to get it done tonight.
All right, let's puck me harder here with tomorrow's action. I see it works, guys. It totally works. You guys are sleeping on a great segment idea. The Open could be a lot of fun. We've got the Blue Jackets going to the Panthers. Florida's a heavy favorite, minus 258 in the money line. Big fat total of 6.5, juice to the under minus 130. But you're going to go puck line in this one, Halterman. Why are we going to lay the 1.5 with the Panthers?
Well, I think the Panthers, first of all, it's a nice matchup. They're a great defensive team. Columbus is a very good offensive team, but I think the Panthers will be able to shut them down a little bit, slow them down a little bit. And what happens when the Panthers play teams that like to get up and down the ice, the Panthers can do that too. They're loaded with forwards that can really put it in the back of the net. So I think Columbus is going to have a tough time holding the Panthers down. I think Florida scores a lot of goals, and I think they get this done. Here's the crazy thing. They lost Matthew Tkachuk to an injury in the Four Nations. Doesn't matter. They've come back. They're undefeated since the Four Nations. They're playing fantastic hockey. I think they get it done pretty easy against Columbus.
Aaron Halterman, racingdudes.com, handicapper, part of the family, at racing_dudes. By the way, we do have a final in Ann Arbor. Maryland knocks off Michigan 71-65. That's a big win for Maryland today. As a matter of fact, our next guest is in the DMV, so we're going to talk to Stuart Durst, but we say goodbye to Aaron Halterman. Halterman, nice to talk to you. Talk to you next week.
Okay, we'll see you guys.
I mean, Missionary was funny, but Fuck Me Harder was so stupid.
You prefer Puck Me Daddy?
No, we're not doing anything. All right, 888-MAD-DOG-6, 888-623-3646. Our buddy Stuart Durst next, betting analyst. He's great with the props in the NBA. We'll talk a little NBA with Stuart next here, VSiN Live. It's Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson. your bets with VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
The big guy, Dustin Swedelson. I'm Patrick Maher. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio, now streaming on YouTube. Just go to VSiN Live on YouTube, pop in, say hello, join the chat as well. We're going to get to our buddy Stuart Durst, who did a great job kind of previewing the Oscars as well, so we can see how Stuart thought the Oscars went. Before we do that, the wide receiver market on Monday when free agency opens is going to be crazy. DK Metcalf requested a trade today. Let's take a call on it. Let's go to Los Angeles, or stay in Los Angeles, where I mentioned it's rainy, it's wet. David. Hi, David.
Hi, Patrick. Hi, Dustin. Thanks so much for taking my call. Before I get to my main point about the wide receiver market, in particular pertaining to the Kansas City Chiefs, I just want to piggyback off of that nickname or that title you guys are having a little fun with here. Puck Me Harder. Fun fact: did you know that when Pac-Man first came to the United States, his name was changed from Puck-Man to Pac-Man because there was fear that immature people would vandalize his name too much. There we go.
Immature people lines up with Dustin Swedelson, as you know, David.
It sounds like it, certainly. Anyway, so regarding what you guys said earlier about the Chiefs and the wide receivers market, I think if the Chiefs don't make a move this offseason at receiver, they're going to be okay for the upcoming season. Their main priority right now needs to be offensive line, not receiver. They can bring in DK Metcalf all they want, but if they're facing an elite pass rusher and Patrick Mahomes does not have time to throw, he's not going to be able to get the ball to DK Metcalf because, as we saw in the Super Bowl, all it takes is an elite pass rush, and you got Patrick Mahomes trapped behind that offensive line. You know, I know they had a lot of injuries this year. They had to move Joe Thuney from guard to tackle. And now, just today, they traded away Joe Thuney. So Who do they have left on offensive line besides Creed Humphrey?
No, you're 100%. You nailed it. The issue was the Philadelphia Eagles got to Mahomes and had a great pass rush in the Super Bowl without blitzing anybody. So, and didn't Thuney just get traded to the Bears? Is that where he went?
Yeah, Thuney to the Bears for a 5th-round pick. And, I mean, they did franchise tag Trey Smith, so they bring that guard back, but they desperately need a tackle. And I don't know where you're getting one right now in this market. That is the hardest thing to find.
Stuart Durst, our friend betting analyst, passed the prop on YouTube at Monotone Football on Twitter, and he joins us. He's got some props for the late NBA games. Before we do that, a hell of a breakdown by you on the Oscars prior to. What'd you think of the turnout? What I do know is there seemed to be some controversy as far as the results with the best picture of the year, which is essentially a porn. How did the Oscars go for you betting-wise?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I thought the ceremony itself was actually good too, with Conan hosting. I thought he did a good job. It was the quickest one I can remember in years. They didn't go like 3-4 hours like they have recently. They cut down on some of the self-indulgent stuff, which is good from like a viewer perspective, you know? So from a show perspective, I thought it was the best it's been in a little bit. Betting, I pretty much broke even. Honora down ballot destroyed. So even in categories where it 100% didn't deserve it, like editing, where I had Conclave, I figured it would at least pick up the win there. Like pretty much down ballot support. Like people were just riding and dying with Honora. So that was interesting to see. And I would say for future years, if you're looking at it, editing is a huge precursor to Best Picture recently. Like it's pretty much whether the movie deserves it or not. Because before the last like 5 years, it was really like who has the flashiest editing, who has like the coolest, like just that a regular person would appreciate, but they've kind of shifted away from that. But it was good. You know, there weren't too many huge upsets outside of some of the smaller categories. And then obviously Best Actress, which Demi Moore did not win, despite being the favorite in, which I was pretty happy to see. Not many people watched The Substance. If you did, I didn't hear too many great reviews. I know she has like crazy makeup and she looks like a deep. I don't know. It's like it's not a great movie. So Honora, I felt like it kind of deserved what it did for a relatively weak year. But then looking back on history, it's clearly not like a 4 or 5 main Oscar category deserving winner. You know what I mean? Like looking back on history, it shouldn't be with some of the best pictures of all time. It's just kind of, I think, a little bit of a weak year and taking advantage of circumstance.
Were you surprised that Chalamet did not win for Complete Unknown?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. I mean, especially with the AI stuff, I thought that would have been a bigger talking point, just with how the creative community, especially online, kind of looked down on that. But I think the main thing I heard across the board was this thing the Oscars do a lot. They go like, "Oh, Chalamet has plenty of time to win an Oscar. Like we're not in a rush to award this guy. He's young." And they're not in a rush to give him an award, which I think is a little bit silly personally, but it is what it is. And he closed as a betting underdog right there. And Brody, it seemed like, took care of business.
Is it true that Brody gave like a 5-minute speech acceptance?
It was brutal. It was brutal. It sounded like he had no clue what was going on. The only funny part was they tried to play him off and he just immediately shut it down. He was like, nope, nope, nope. I'm going to keep talking. He didn't really have anything to say. I'm not sure why he was so insistent on continuing to talk, but that part alone was pretty cool to just shut them down like that. It was the best moment of the speech, but the other 5 minutes, you probably could have left it.
Yeah. Look, Chalamet, he went off as the dog and Brody went off as the favorite. Chalamet became a huge part of this channel because he's a fan of Mad Dog, Chris Russo. Russo flew out to London to be a part of the screening, and Chalamet, he was campaigning. Let's put it that way. Like the speech he gave at the prior award where he said he wants to be great, like I actually respected his approach to it. He wasn't trying to hide that he wanted the award.
I agree. I thought they'd like that more too, because it's rare actors do that where they go like, no, I want to be like recognized by you guys. So I don't know. I agree. I thought that would play a little bit more because he was going for it. He was on every podcast you can think of as well.
I have a legit question. You guys are going to think I'm trolling, but I'm not. Up until now, were you aware that he was American? Because for a long time, I thought he was an English actor or he was from somewhere in Europe. I didn't realize he was American until I heard him speak on College Game Day in the fall. Were you aware of this, Stu?
I think I knew that he was an American dude. How about you, Stuart?
Yeah, I was aware just because of previous Oscar races. I've heard him talk before, so, but I don't know. He doesn't, I get what you mean. I get where you're coming from. He has a British, like upper class, like grew up in a castle kind of look to him.
Yeah, he's got a European flair. I think that's
regal.
Fair.
He's regal.
Yeah, and he was sitting there with your girl, Kylie Jenner, their big guy.
Good for him. God willing, he knows what to do with that because I'm still trying to figure out how to work with
nothing like
mine.
being stepdad to a bunch of kids. You're right. Good for him. All right, we'll move on. Stuart Durst joining us. We're talking Oscars. He did a great job previewing it. Let's move to the basketball. I wanted to ask you, before we get to your props, just a broader question about my Detroit Pistons. So the Pistons are here in Los Angeles tonight, and they're taking on the Clippers. The Pistons are laying 4 because the Clippers aren't playing anybody, including Kawhi Leonard and Norman Powell. But just in general on the Pistons, it feels like there's some momentum that this is a legitimate could win around in the postseason type of team.
Yeah. I don't think that's home field bias. I mean, when you can play good defense in the modern NBA, I think you can compete with anyone. And they're a young team, so they might not get that respect right now, but everyone's contributing. And I think you need like Ivy back. You need a little bit of health to go in the right direction for you because you don't want to be playing like Ron Holland and like Simone Fontecchio real playoff minutes. That would not be a good thing. So a little bit of, positive variance with the injuries for the rest of the year would be nice. I think the biggest problem will be once you get to like the fourth quarter, right? And it's playoff basketball and everything slows down and you can't run in transition anymore. Who's going to be the guy that steps up and like beats the best defender on the other team possession after possession? Because I do love Cade. But like after Cade, if you're sending 2 guys at him, you're really depending on Malik Beasley to hit a lot of threes or Tobias Harris. And you can ask obviously Sixers fans how that went with Tobias Harris. So, I think they still need another guy there. And I think when, you get to real like playoff half court basketball, I think that might get exposed a little bit more.
You know what? You just piqued my interest just because you mentioned how the postseason's so different in the NBA. I'm curious what you think of Cleveland because Cleveland's the 1 seed. I mean, it's locked up at this point. They're 51-10. They're on a 10-game win streak. Are they built for a playoff series with everyone they're going to see along the way, including Boston? or do you think there's a chance that that's a team that's built better for the long season than they are for the postseason run?
Yeah, I'll keep singing the praise of the Cavs. I like them. I really do like the way they play. I think they have multiple guys that can score in crunch time. Garland has taken a step up. I think the biggest guy that is going to be under a microscope is going to be Evan Mobley because he has stepped up in the regular season. But once again, I don't know if he's a 16, 17 point per game guy in the postseason. We know Donovan Mitchell can rise to the occasion. He can score in tough environments. He's a great contested shot maker. I have a lot of confidence in Donovan Mitchell. But outside of that, like I trust Garland from time to time, but I think you're going to need a guy like Evan Mobley to really step up. But like I said about defense, this is a team that plays fantastic defense at every level, and that's going to keep them competitive in pretty much every game. So it's going to go. They're going to go far. I think the Celtics are they're obviously their arch nemesis in the postseason.
I think they're legit. I think that Friday night in Boston when they were down like 25-5 and came back and won the game, that showed me something as far as Cleveland. Maybe a little bit more metal, and Atkinson doing a great job this year. Stuart Durst is here. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, but the big story, and get to his prop bets, the big story tonight, and we can even get Stuart's take on this because he is in the DMV, Maryland goes on the road, 13-17 Michigan, and beats them 71-65. I know a big Maryland fan, or at least in the area, is Constantine, and he joins us here on VSiN Live. Hi, Constantine. Constantine, you got me? He's a big college hoops fan. He's wowed by what Stuart Durst is saying about. Now, you are in the DMV. Is this a surprise this year with Maryland? I know the offense is great, but that's a big win on the road at Ann Arbor.
Yeah, I mean, good for them too, right? I mean, it's a program that has had expectation. I've had a couple NBA guys over the years, like Jalen Smith recently. Like, you know, there's been some highs and lows, but the highs have really not been that high. And it's good as a DMV guy. It feels like all the tides are rising. We like across the board. Obviously, NFL was great. And now Maryland basketball is looking like, you know, not just maybe a flash in the pan, but maybe a serious contender in March this year.
No,
legit. You're right. You're right. Like, that fan base is weird. Like, they don't go away even when the team is bad, but they definitely get a lot more obnoxious when the team is good. And now that they're good, full disclosure, I have 85-1 on them to win the title, Stu. I have watched 30 seconds of them play this year, so that's where I'm at. I just happened to get lucky with the ticket.
Now, Hayden in D.C., Hayden, you were there under the bucket when Michigan State with the walk-off. The other Michigan team in Ann Arbor tonight, your Maryland Terrapins pick up a W. Your thoughts?
Well, my big concern is getting that ticket out of Dustin's hands. It's 85-1. Can we talk off the air? Can I don't, you know, I'll give you 10%. This has to, I cannot ride the next 3 weeks with Dustin rolling on the Terps.
Yeah, he's a cooler, is what he is. He's a cooler. Well, yeah. Do you think this team come tournament time is legit?
Yes, this is our best team since 2001. Since this is the urgency of why I hopped on the call and needed to reach out. We need to figure out a way to compensate Dustin, make sure he's well taken care of, even if they do win. But we cannot let Dustin be the man riding with that ticket.
Well, hold on. You're rich. Please tell me you're betting on your Maryland Terrapins to win a national championship, Hayden.
Every time I bet on Maryland, they lose. So thank all the Terrapin fans out there should thank me for not betting tonight. But I will find the NIL money to make sure that ticket comes out of your hands.
Hey, Hayden, question.
Hayden,
question. Bigger night, tonight with Maryland winning at Ann Arbor or last night with the State of the Union for you?
Ooh. Toss up. Can I go tie? I mean, last night was like Christmas in February, whatever, March, whatever we're in right now. That was awesome.
I thought about you. I hope you weren't wearing sweatpants. That's Hayden, who's a big Maryland guy. We'll come back. VSiN Live. Stuart Durst is here with some props. Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, and our buddy Stuart Durst, nice enough to hang through the break. Betting analyst, Pass the Prop on YouTube. He's the host of that, at Monotone Football on Twitter. We were just joking because he's in the DMV. He's a Wizards guy, and the Wizards are up 2 against Utah. Utah, this is why people that listen to this program and this network, they have a problem with the NBA game right now because Utah just rested 6 dudes out of nowhere. But hopefully for the money line parlay there, Stuart picks that up. Let's move on to Detroit tonight. They're here in Los Angeles. It's a team that's been hot. Osur Thompson, if people haven't watched the Thompson brothers play basketball, they're awesome. Osur Thompson tonight, you're going to go over 9.5 rebounds and assists.
Yeah, no, this has been one of my favorite players in the league to target. He's so ungodly athletic, and both of the twins are. That, like, when he's playing serious minutes in a game, he's someone that's always going to be a target for me. And the biggest thing with the Pistons here is he's kind of been stuck in that, like, 22 to 25 minute range as a role player, and he's been insanely productive in that range, but he's finally been freed a little bit with Tobias Harris going down with injury. And no shade to Tobias Harris, surprisingly good this year, like very, very good as a role player. But that's a serious gap in terms of size because now you have Jalen Duren as your center. And then beyond that, you really don't have much. You're playing Tim Hardaway Jr., you're playing Malik Beasley, you're playing Cade, and then Thompson. So Thompson's sliding into the de facto 4 role. And if you look at these guys, Hardaway and Beasley are awful rebounders. They spend most of their time on the 3-point line. They're shooters. They're trying to create their own shot. And if you bet on NBA regular season rebounds, it's truly a 50% effort stat. You can't say that about any other category, not points, not assists, but rebounding is 50% opportunity and 50% effort. And these Thompson twins, they go for every single board. Like they crash so aggressively and they're so athletic that you want these guys in transition. You want them leading the team down the floor and creating those easy transition buckets and scoring yourself nice points. And that's why he's a good like secondary playmaker. Cade's obviously the lead guy. He's a double-double threat every single night. But behind him, Thompson really does kind of function as a secondary, tertiary playmaker, especially when Cade's off the court. So whenever I bet a rebounds and assist prop, for me, I need upside in both categories. I need someone that I could see like easily overshooting both rebounds and assist. And from what we've seen recently, his floor and assist when he's playing 30 minutes is like 4. And it's juiced. It's at 2.5 juiced regularly. So I like having 4 if you just want to play assist alone at plus money. I think that's a good look. But I like having that compared with also being one of the most aggressive rebounders on a team full of guys that really aren't that aggressive. Like when Zubac and Duren are boxing each other out, someone's got to grab those extra boards. And I just know Thompson's going to crash so aggressively. So one of my favorite targets for rebounds and assists. And I think he's in a great spot tonight to keep that going.
All right, you have another play in this game. You're going to go with the big man for the Pistons, Jalen Duren, assist prop, seeing over 2.5. What are you seeing in the matchup with the Clippers?
Yeah, he's been sneaky good as like another like secondary playmaker. There's one thing I look for both Duren and Thompson and for assist, and it's who's in the paint, who's the guy protecting. Zubac is not a guy that goes out to the perimeter. He doesn't travel anywhere. He's going to stand right under the paint or right under the basket and plant himself there all game. And for me, Thompson is a guy that can't make jump shots, to be completely honest. He really depends on getting to the rim. And Duren is the same thing. They're the 2 guys on the team that kind of rely on being in the paint to score. And when you get a matchup like the Clippers that just aren't giving away free paint points, they got a great center in Zubac who's anchoring them down there, then I love these guys for the dribble handoffs, for the good like little sneaky assist. And Duren, when he's playing big minutes, the guy's averaging 7 potential assists per game, which is great for a center. Like you don't see numbers like that. You really only have to have him convert on a little bit less than half of his potential assist in this one. So whenever there's a good, strong center on the other side for Detroit, I'm always looking at both Thompson and Duren for assist because both of those guys rely so much on scoring in the paint.
Okay, Stuart. And finally tonight, Sacramento's in Denver. You got Trey Lyles over 6.5 rebounds assist combo.
Yeah, this one's great. We got the role players out in full force. Injury city with now Monk as well. And looking at that Kings Nuggets game, Lyles is the only backup to Jonas Valanciunas. And I do like Valanciunas tonight. I have him for 15 points. That's still available in a couple spots. I do think Jonas Valanciunas has a good game. But when you're playing Denver, you got to have some size out there. And Valanciunas is the only center on the roster. And when you look behind him, Lyles is the second tallest player they've got, and he's the only active rebounder that they have on the team. So when you look at last game, he played 20 minutes. He benefited from this because Sabonis never misses. Sabonis has been kind of an Iron Man over these last couple of years. So Lyles has really been stuck in that kind of 12 to 15 minute rotation. When the guy plays between 18 and 22 minutes, he's averaging over 6 boards per game. And once again, last game he had 9 rebounds and 6 assists in this role. So I honestly think he can go over 6 rebounds and assists on just the rebounds alone, but he's another guy that's a sneaky good playmaker and kind of an unselfish player. So I think the sports books have mispriced Lyles minutes tonight. Due to the fact that Sabonis is out, Valanciunas is the starting center. So Lyles is no longer picking up backup power forward minutes. He's picking up backup center minutes, which are going to be so much more valuable for those rebounds. So a little bit of a digging in the dumps here, but I love Trey Lyles tonight.
Stuart Thompson over 9.5 rebounds, assists combo. Jalen Duren over 2.5 dimes, and Trey Lyles over 6.5 rebounds, assists, Sacramento. Stuart Durst, you're the best. Thank you for your patience tonight. Betting analyst, pass the prop on YouTube, at Monotone Football on Twitter. We'll talk to you next week, Stuart. Thanks, bro.
Appreciate it, guys. Let's cash.
Yep, let's cash some tickets tonight with Mr. Durst. When we return, he is a mainstay on the program. He is professional handicapper Scott Spreitzer, and he's going to join us next. 888-MAD-DOG-6, 888-623-3646. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Dustin Swedelson. covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, Mad Dog Sports Radio listeners, if you're new to VSiN, remember, now back on SiriusXM channel 158, you can sign up for our free daily newsletter. It's a great way to catch up. We give out free plays in that as well. Delivered straight to your inbox every morning, VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, and strategies for the day's betting menu. Sign up for free right now at vsin.com/newsletter and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. I start my morning with it every day. Mr. AD does a great job. vsin.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Maher. This is VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. We're thrilled. We're trying to get the algo going, but we are now streaming live on YouTube, on VSiN's YouTube page. You can go at VSiN Live on YouTube and find us. Is there any other details, Dustin, I need to give out for the stream?
No, it's all available at the Rap Radio as well. You just go to the VSiN Live YouTube page. And I before the show, you don't even know this, I informed Scott, just to give him a heads up, like we've been doing video for the show, you, me, and Scott, and all of our guests when they appear just behind the scenes. Said, hey, Scott, heads up, this is going to be streaming on the VSiN YouTube page now. And he's like, oh, okay, why are you telling me? Is there something that's going on here I need to know? I was like, nah, just like don't pick your nose maybe on the camera. That's about it. I mean, that doesn't stop me, but just wanted to let him know he couldn't pick his nose on camera anymore.
Okay, well, yeah, he's not uncouth like you are. He is Scott Spreitzer. Doc Sports, DOCSports.com, handicapper, at Scott Wins with 2 T's on Twitter. Obviously been joining us for a decade plus here on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Yeah, you're a superstar. Now, Dustin's a narcissist, so he got a new haircut for our little stream, but you do look dapper as well, Mr. Spreitzer.
Well, he told me I got to wear pants, and that almost ended our relationship right there as far as doing these shows on Wednesday nights. But went ahead and you guys can guess whether I am or not. But anyway, we'll stream away from there for just a second. But listen, I got to say something about Dustin telling me that he's, before I came on tonight, telling me that he's like getting healthy with his eating. He's not going to be venturing to Chinatown too much, and he loves Chinese food. Dustin, I got to tell you, you come to my house, you're not going to recognize the Chinese food cooked by a woman from China. Well,
that's because that's real Chinese food. I'm talking about I want the gelatinous chicken, the overly sweet sauce. I want deep fried crab wontons, egg rolls. I want the bad stuff from getting Chinese food. I don't even know what real Chinese food is.
I'm telling you right now, I like your style because give me more MSG. I'm all for it.
And it has nothing to do with the Knicks, who Dustin happens to be a fan of. Let's do this. Let's start with conference tournaments and kind of give bettors an overview of how you approach them. A different approach in betting college basketball conference tournaments than betting the big dance, obviously. And I should just note off the top of the hour here that we did have a nice little upset in college hoops tonight. Maryland goes on the road and beats Michigan in Ann Arbor in a really good performance, Scott.
Yeah, I'll tell you about, as far as Michigan's concerned, they've been a little lackluster as of late, and they've done such a great job this first season under a new coach and the players he had to bring in that I just think we're seeing a little bit of a reality check for the Wolverines of late. And, we talked about Maryland last week. I came on the show. I had them in that game. They ended up losing that game. But this is a team that can go really deep, I think, in college basketball. I love the way they play on the defensive end. But again, I think this is more of an indictment against Michigan. They could surprise a couple of teams once they get into the big dance, but I just don't think they have what they need to get very deep into the big dance this year. I think it's been a phenomenal job by this coaching staff and all these new players.
How about Florida? Florida with about a minute to go up in Tuscaloosa on Alabama, 91-82, Scott. And by the way, Patrick, that second half total, what I say it was 94.5?
Yeah, it was a big one. Yeah.
They're at 92 with a minute 14 to go. So they're going to
go clear
over
it easily. I mean, two teams that score like crazy. To be fair.
Yeah, but what do you make of Florida? It seems like they're destined to be a 1 seed. I know a lot of sharp people are on them. Super efficient offense and defense. Is this a Final Four team in your eyes?
The only weakness I can find from Florida, because they're physical, they play at a quick pace, all that good stuff. The only thing I see out of Florida that scares me a little bit is their lack of ability to get to the free throw line a lot. And it's not horrible, but they're outside the top 220 when it comes to free throw attempt to field goal attempt ratio. And, Houston's another team that doesn't get to the free throw line. And that worries me when they get late into the tournament. But that's the only thing. I mean, I'm nitpicking here. They don't shoot free throws all that well anyway, talking about Florida, when they do get to the stripe. But my gosh, they're just so good on both ends of the floor. Fourth in, points per 100 possessions, seventh in points per 100 possessions allowed. You go into Alabama, and I believe this was Bama's senior night or whatever. You go into Bama and you shut them down like they've done. And it's just amazing how well this team has played at both ends of the floor. And you were catching Bama not only in their senior night, but off a road loss to Tennessee in a 3-point game. Here's one thing about Bama I'll throw in the mix also, is that Alabama, when they've lost games this year, most of those teams have been able to shut them down from behind the 3-point line. And by shut them down, I'm talking about, not that they don't give up the attempts, but they get in their face and they cause them to miss a lot of threes. We've seen that this year in some of their losses. And I haven't checked in the last, let's say, 20 minutes, but at one point, Bama was hitting like 29% of their threes again tonight against Florida. That's what you got to do if you're going to shut down this Bama team, because they're going to shoot a lot of threes.
Scott Spreitzer joining us. So we had Ken Pomeroy on the program yesterday, who I know you're a fan of his work as well. Ken Pom is, as far as his college basketball numbers, I mean, it's kind of a Bible at this point for bettors, even if you just use it as a reference. And he was saying in all the years he's done it, just numbers-wise, Auburn and Duke are historic. Mm-hmm. And he said Houston's not too far behind. This is a pretty hardcore top tier with Houston, and then obviously Auburn, who lost on the road, but they had just wrapped up the SEC at A&M last night, and Duke. I'd like to get your thoughts on those three teams.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it was either last week or the week before. I mean, we've talked a few times about teams that might get deep enough into the tournament where we could hedge. We talked about St. John's, 6 weeks ago when they were like 40-1, Wisconsin a couple of weeks ago when they were 40-1. We've talked about teams that have a chance to go deep into the tourney. But again, I think it was last week when we spoke about the fact that I don't think it's as wide open as a lot of people believe. So I'm kind of agreeing with Ken Palm on this one, Ken Pomeroy. Duke, Auburn, Houston is men among boys when they take the floor most nights. The Florida Gators have a shot to break into that mix. Who are you going to go on? Who are you going to go with after that? I mean, Tennessee has their weaknesses. Plus, they've got Barnes as a head coach. There you go. Alabama, if you slow down their 3-point shooting, this team is very beatable. We found that out. Texas Tech disappears at times, but plays really well on the defensive side. I was looking at Ken Palm's ratings earlier today, and he's got Gonzaga 8th. And I'm a big Ken Palm fan, but when is this team going to show up and do anything? So, I mean, maybe Tom Izzo can throw a wrench into somebody's system with his great coaching and the way this team plays on the defensive end of the floor. But again, I agree with Ken Palm. Duke and Auburn way out in front, Houston not too far back, and then maybe Florida going into this tournament. I don't think it's as wide open as people think.
Well, I was going to ask you about Tennessee 12-1 to win it all, but you kind of just answered my question with the thoughts about the Vols. They're at Ole Miss today. It just got underway. The number is about what it was again pre-flop, just underway with them laying 2.5. Do you like the spot for them coming off that win against Alabama, or Ole Miss, who's been struggling of late? Is it a get-right spot for them tonight?
I almost played Ole Miss, and then I held off. Yeah. So I held off the game completely. But if I would have played the game, it would have been the Rebels in this one. When I look at Tennessee, obviously outstanding on the defensive side of the court. I think they're number one in points allowed per 100 possessions, but they're not great all the time offensively. They're good. They're not elite. As far as going on the road after they knocked off Alabama by 3 at home in a tight game, or a tight ending at least, I think it's going to be tough for them to bounce back tonight. But again, there's enough going on right now with Ole Miss losing 3 in a row, losing like 7 games since mid or late January, that kept me off the game. I don't trust this team on the offensive glass. They're not good on the glass, talking about Ole Miss, and I think that's going to haunt them. Plus, they do foul too much. They allow their opponents to get to the free throw line way too often when it comes to a free throw attempt to field goal attempt ratio allowed. So it was almost a play on Ole Miss. I decided to hold off.
Scott Spreitzer joining us. So now we return to my original question, and that is betting these conference tournaments, which I know you love to do. The familiarity plays into it. We'll start there. And you were talking right before we came on the air about a strategy you have when talking about these conference tourneys.
Yeah, I like to, Fairleigh Dickinson fit this tonight, what I'm about to mention. But I like to look at these smaller conference tournaments and look at teams that pretty much demolished the opponent twice during the course of the regular season, or even if the game was, relatively close. If you look at the deep metrics, they dominated metric wise and probably should have won by more. I love it when you see a team that, let's say, won one game by double digits, won the other game by 7 or 8 points. You start diving into it, you find out, wow, with 4 minutes to go, they were up 16 and they won by 7. They kind of cruised. I like that kind of stuff also. If you go to look at the deep metrics, and I hope you guys don't mind, I'm going to throw out a site out there. There's a bunch. Shot Quality does a real good job with this. And they'll give you the deep metrics of every game these teams played. And I go in there and I look and I dig. There's only certain metrics that I look for, and I pick them out of SQ. And then I'll see, boy, if that team should have won that game by, let's say an 80% opportunity to win that game both times they played, and they did win and they won convincingly, that other team is not going to have much of a chance in that third game. So a lot of people, when they get into betting, sports betting, they're doing it for fun, entertainment, or just trying to start becoming more of a pro in this stuff. They tend to say, wow, I like that team that lost twice during the regular season. They're going to have that extra motivation in that third meeting to not get swept. It's kind of the other way around, man. Look for those deep metrics. Teams that pound those teams the first 2 times normally win that third time, at least for me, against the spread. And again, Fairleigh Dickinson was one of those teams tonight that kind of kicked this style of handicapping off for the upcoming tournaments.
I love it. We've got a bunch of these little leagues underway. Missouri Valley kicks off, I believe, tomorrow. And Drake's the belle of the ball. That's the team everyone's talking about. The guy from Northwest Missouri State brings his national champion team over. They're the favorite at -110. Bradley's your second shot at +340. Northern Iowa +475. Belmont 12-1. Illinois State 15-1, and then it gets larger from there. When you're looking at the MVC, who you think's a good bet here pre-flop before they get going?
I'm a big Mo Valley fan, guys. We've talked about it years ago when I first started doing the show. And I always used to say that the conference that I followed when I first started betting after moving to Las Vegas as a guy in my late teens was the Mo Valley, because I didn't have time to dig into a billion different conferences and see how they fared each and every night. So I was familiar with the Mo Valley growing up in Omaha. Creighton was in the Mo Valley back then. And I've continued my love for this conference, even with all the changes they've had with teams over the course of the last decade. I like Northern Iowa +475. At least that was the number about 2 hours ago at DK to win the tournament. I love the name, by the way, Arch Madness. That's as good as it gets. But Northern Iowa is one of the 4 teams to have that first round bye. And first of all, if you're looking to bet a Mo Valley team to win the postseason conference tournament, you need to look at the top 3 seeds. Since the early 1980s, the tourney has been won by a top 3 seed 43 times. There's been like maybe 4 or 5, 6 times where they haven't, one of those top 3 seeds. And you mentioned the top 3. It's Drake, Bradley, Northern Iowa in that particular order. And as far as the Panthers are concerned, they're going to slow you down. Not because they can't shoot. They're top 40 in both 2-point and 3-point shooting, 33rd in effective field goal percentage. Their Friday opponent will be the winner of the Valpo, Illinois, Chicago game. They beat UIC by 21 and 22. And what we just talked about with Fairfield, I'm really hoping they play UIC and UIC gets by Valpo tomorrow. They lost at Valpo 2 months ago on a night that they could not drain the 3 at all. Terrible night. But that came against a bad 3-point defense, Valparaiso. And it was just a bad game for Northern Iowa. They'd probably face Bradley if they get by their first game and they split this season with the Braves. Bradley's been beatable over the last month of the season. So then it's potentially Northern Iowa and Drake. So you're talking first team to 10 wins that game. Listen, Drake has serious turnover issues, and they can be had on defense inside the 3-point line. Got a Northern Iowa team that nails 56% of their 2-pointers. So again, this is one of those things I'm just looking for a little value. Come up with Northern Iowa +475, knowing that Drake is the best team in this tournament.
Scott Spreitzer, a lot of people like Drake maybe to be that team we're going to be talking about come the big tournament. Doc Sports, DOCsports.com. So this is a good way to set up just kind of a broader NBA conversation, because you want to talk about tomorrow night, the Lakers hosting Dustin's Knicks.
Uh-huh.
And DraftKings is showing 2.5 with the Lakers laying it. Let me just start with an overview. It feels like people are starting to buy in when you have 2 transcendent players. Yeah, maybe the Lakers don't have the size they desire, but this Luka looks very, very motivated. Where are you right now on the Lakers?
Apparently hookah and suds do well, right? I don't know, but at least on the offensive end of things. But I'm still not one who believes that the Lakers are going to go deep in the postseason, but we'll worry about that when that time comes. What I do like is their play in the regular season. And I think there's a difference between calling a team elite in the regular season this time of year and then saying they're not an elite team when the postseason starts. So that's where you look at the Lakers right now. They're clocking teams. The schedule hasn't been overly difficult since they brought Doncic from Dallas, but they're beating up on teams. So the first thing I looked at is Karl Anthony Towns going to play. I saw an update on X about an hour ago that says he will be with the team on Thursday. That was the report that was going around. A lot of rumors swirling around what's going on with Karl Anthony Towns right now. But really, it hasn't mattered a ton if he plays or not when they step up against top teams. And there's 7 points from a 5-game skid right now. And again, you know my feelings on the Lakers. I don't think they're going to be able to defend near the rim when we get to the postseason. But they're an elite regular season team right now, what I call them. I have a couple of different columns that I call teams this point of the year. But if you look at the Knicks on the road against top teams or somewhat elite level regular season teams, they're 3-7 straight up. And I'm including Indiana and Memphis in that mix of 10 teams. And when I look at this team, I see 7 road losses for the Knicks against those teams by an average margin of 17 points per game. They got clocked by Boston by 23-13. They got crushed in Cleveland. The Knicks' best road win came at Denver, and that was before Thanksgiving. I don't like the way this team is playing right now. I think the Lakers at that price should be able to get the job done. I also think I'm a little concerned because I would bet if the Lakers are 3 or less, they're going to be pretty popular by just about everybody who likes to plunk a little money down on a basketball game.
Yeah, Lakers shortened up to 14-1 to win it all. The Knicks 18-1, Scott. I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about my Knicks right now. I don't think they're contending with anyone that matters in the playoffs. But according to the odds, when I just pulled these up just now on DraftKings, after the Knicks, it jumps up to 45-1 on the Bucks. So theoretically, what it says to me is DraftKings believes there's only 7 teams maybe that can win the title. If you include the Knicks, let's take them out. 6 teams. Do you believe in any of these 6 teams more than the other? Thunder, Celtics, Cavs, Lakers, Warriors, Nuggets.
I'm going to throw the Warriors into the mix. I do like the Celtics, the Thunder. I'll break it down like this. The Celtics and the Cavaliers, again, they're teams that are right there where you need to be both on offense and defense when it comes to efficiency. Boston's in the top 5 at both ends. Cleveland's number 1 in one end, but just outside the top 5 in the other. And Oklahoma City is the second team that's in the top 5 at both ends when it comes to efficiency. But I'm going to add Golden State to the mix because right now, if Jimmy Butler gets his off-court troubles, taken care of and can stay healthy, this team's playing at a different level. And if I had to choose between Golden State and the Lakers right now, I'd be on the Warriors. I still think it's maybe with Oklahoma City, as good as they are, they're still young. That worries me. If they go up against a Steph-led Golden State Warriors, maybe even, though I don't think it's going to happen, a LeBron-led Lakers team, OKC's lack of veteran leadership could hurt here. I still think Boston comes out of the East ever so slight edge over Cleveland. And out of the West right now, man, we got a mix of teams. Very small lean towards the Warriors if they stay healthy, believe it or not, guys.
Yeah, we're going to talk in the last half hour of the program about Steph and what he's doing at his age. Scott Spreitzer, Doc Sports, DOCSports.com handicapper, joining us here. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Let's do a little baseball before we say goodbye. The Cubbies, you're on their over team total as far as the futures market. Give us a little rundown on this Cubby team.
This pains me to do this. I like the over. I grew up a Cardinal fan, so it does pain me to do this. But that over-under is still sitting at 85.5. And I saw the price on the over minus $1.15 earlier today. They're $1.40 to make the postseason at last check, which means they need to top this wins total and land in a win column with a few more wins than they're projected at 85.5. Probably have to finish with about 89 wins to hit that wild card. I love the fact they signed Kyle Tucker, 30-plus home runs. There's always the thought that he could be traded before the deadline later in the season if the Cubs are struggling, but I don't think they will. He's a one-year deal, becomes a free agent at the end of the season. But I think he's going to stay with the Cubbies because I think they're going to be in the mix. They were middle of the pack in weighted runs created plus, and they need more pop at the plate. They just got it. As far as their pitching, I'd like to see the strikeout percentage go up, guys. But the good news is they don't walk a lot of batters. They brought in a couple of arms. Matthew Boyd, the best addition. They knocked off Kyle Hendricks. The Angels go grab him. I like the pin. I think they'll go from the 12th best bullpen ERA into top 10 action with the moves they made. I really think that this team wins 90 games this year. So I think over 85.5 is the way to go.
Well, you mentioned your Cardinals. Their win total 77.5. And you look at what they're doing with the roster, Scott. It's crazy just because there's only two guys in the lineup that weren't Cardinals prospects. That's Wilson Contreras, who they signed a couple years ago, and then Nolan Arenado, who they traded for a while ago, but now they're trying to trade him again. It's a rebuild happening, and it's a weird combination of guys. What are you going to do with their win total?
I got a lot of pain. First, I'm saying the Cubs over. Now I'm saying Cardinals under. And it's 77.5 minus $1.05. Really pains me to say that. But listen, the Cardinal way has lost its way. And you just hit on it, man. They're not bringing up prospects like they used to. 89 wins was the amount needed for a wild card spot last year. And the Cardinals finished with 83. And they overachieved to get to 83. They finished with a minus 47 run differential. They should have finished with 77 or 78 wins at best. They spent this offseason trying to dump Arenado. Are you kidding me? How is this offense expected to improve? I don't like the outfield when they're at the plate. I really don't. Pitching, well, they have a closer in Helsley and not a lot else. Starting pitching, they have 4 who were trade bait before the deadline if this team's struggling. Michael has stunk it up last year. You don't see him he might be better. He's not going to make a big improvement. And then Sonny Gray, who is probably going to be the guy representing them in July at the All-Star game, as long as his tendonitis doesn't flare up, he should be okay. That's not enough for me to think that this team can win 78 to 80 games. I think they stay under that total of 77.5. And this just is not the Cardinal way anymore.
No, the Redbirds are down bad. You hate to see it. That is New York and then St. Louis. I'd put those two as the best baseball towns in America. So you hate to see it. I put St. Louis above Boston.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a bummer. Baseball's better for baseball seam heads. For the three of us, baseball's better when the Cardinals are good. So I agree with that. Scott Spreitzer, tremendous, great information. DocSports, DOCSports.com for the picks and the videos. And you can find, as always, our buddy Scott Spreitzer on Twitter at ScottWins with 2 T's. Scott, you're the best, and you look great, and we don't know if you have pants on. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right. See you later. Scott Spreitzer. Now, speaking of baseball, we do have Dustin's breakdown of the AL East and the core 4 bets, which we can get into. But he brought up something that I think we should discuss. And that is, and I can't remember, we did maybe it was because of KD. It was because of KD. Yes. We put together our top 15, and I can't remember where we had Steph. Do you?
I remember having him on mine around 8 or 9.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. I think we're getting to a pretty weird place that he is not being discussed like a definite top 10 player.
I think,
and we'll go through it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think bigger than the NBA. I think there's a case to be made that no athlete has impacted the sport he played on more than what Steph has done to the NBA. The entire league has transformed how they approach roster construction because of Steph's ability to hit the 3 the way that he does. Everyone is chasing what him and the Splash Brothers did at the beginning of that Warriors run, and that we're going back, 10 years now on that? So not everyone can be built like Josh Allen. Not everyone can be 6'5", 250 and run a 4.5 40. It's not possible. But you can find a 6'3" guy who can shoot, and this is a trickle-down effect. You've talked about this a ton, going down to the AAU level and the high school level. It's all kids shooting threes. Why? They're emulating what Steph does because you can replicate it. And I think if you look around every other sport, there are not a lot of people who can do what Ohtani does in baseball. But you can find a way to do what Steph's doing. It's just he's on such a different level. You're always like chasing that carrot.
100%. Do you have Steph top 10? 888 Mad Dog 6, 888 623 3646. I think when I'm going to throw out, because I think within NBA circles, the fact that he was Del Curry's son, the fact that he was perceived as privileged, I think that knocks him from a street cred perspective. Outside of basketball circles, with the people that just love to bitch about the sport, I think he gets crushed for the proliferation of the 3-point shot, which is always interesting to me because it's like, All right, so you prefer 18-foot jumpers over a 3-foot shot? Like, none of it makes any sense. You prefer inside-out basketball over a 3-point shot? I think people just love to bitch about it.
No, hold on. And it was there available for a lot of these guys to use. Secondly, if we come up with our top 10, I'm willing to bet half of them are on the list because they were born 7 feet tall. So tell me the skill that they have, that they developed, that Steph Curry didn't develop. Steph Curry had to create himself as a basketball player, an all-around player, because he's 6'3", and he's not that big. He's not a thick guy. Being born 7 foot gives you a massive advantage in the game, not just back then, but still now, if you have any semblance of any skill. So I bet if we did our top 10, half the list is going to be 7-footers, and that's a knock on them.
Do you have Steph in the top 10? 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646, VSiN Live. It's Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
MLB opening day is around the corner, and Fantasy Sports Radio has all the fantasy baseball draft advice you need. Just go to SiriusXM on the app and search Fantasy Drafts to hear player projections, late-round sleepers, and winning strategies. Learn from the best and hear several experts' drafts where the brightest minds in the industry compete against each other. Win your fantasy baseball league with Fantasy Sports Radio Channel 87 in your car or on the SiriusXM app. We do welcome you back here. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Maher. Thanks for being with us. 888-MAD-DOG-6, 888-623-3646. And remember, hello to everybody that's streaming live on YouTube. Make sure to give us a follow. I think what we're supposed to say is give it a like. Because if you give it a like, it gets caught up in the algo, and hopefully we can get more people interested in the program. Any help from you would be much appreciated. I want to talk about Steph, but before we do, you mentioned, I don't know if the game's tipped. Did you have a play you wanted to get out quickly?
Yeah, real quick, I want to shout out the Family Bets Discord, all the information at The Rap Radio on Twitter, at Dustin Swedelson. I want to shout out Card Crazy 09, who at 2 o'clock today said he liked Maryland money line, and that comes home. Want to give him some props there. So, interesting matchup. Oklahoma City going to Memphis. They're laying 7.5 on the road, are the Thunder. I am going to place a bet just because Jaren Jackson Jr. is out for Memphis. So, I think at worst I go 50-50 here, but there's a chance we win both. One, Zach Edey over 8.5 rebounds against that front court for Oklahoma City, where I think he can get us 9 tonight. And then on the other side, Isaiah Hartenstein over 19.5 points and rebounds with no Jaren Jackson Jr. on the other side to slow him down. I think he could have a big day on the glass. He also scores against them. Last time in February against the Grizzlies, Hartenstein went for 26 points and rebounds, so I think 19.5 is a really low number for him. So we'll take the two bigs, we'll try to use their rebounds, and we'll hope to benefit from Triple J not being there.
All right, there you go, big guy with the bets. You can find all of those, vsin.com/picks. The big guy on fire. So the Steph Curry conversation fascinates me, and I think Shine led with this. We can get to our media roundup as well. I think Shine led with this because Steph, on the second half of back-to-back, took the Warriors in the MSG, and they beat the Knicks. And I'm pretty sure the Knicks were rested. Maybe I could be corrected there.
No, they were. The Warriors run a back-to-back. The Knicks were not.
Yeah, which is, I mean... And here's what I would say. I'm not sure what more needs to be said. We can go through some of this, but I'll put it this way. Jimmy Butler has joined the Warriors, and I understand advanced-wise, like the spacing, he does more just with his presence being on the court, but he's an afterthought. Like, you look up his numbers since he's joined the team. He's done nothing. It's just Steph Curry's show. He's been fine. Back to college, Steph, who had 28 points and 5 threes to beat the Knicks last night. If you go back to college, Steph is 13-1 at MSG. And speaking of college, how about Davidson, an under-recruited player? I think you were being kind to him. You said he's 6'3". I think he's 6'2", somewhere between 6'2" and 6'3".
Yeah.
But this adds up to my question of, do you believe he's a top 10 player? And that's 888-623-3646. First off, he was the NCAA scoring champ in 2009. 3-time first-team All-SoCon. His numbers retired by Davidson. That's college. We all remember the wonderful run he had with Davidson in the tournament where he essentially carried them. Then you get to the pros, and it starts to get pretty insane what he's done. First off, he was underdrafted. Remember why, Dustin? He didn't really have a position. He wasn't a point guard. He wasn't big enough to be a shooting guard. And what he did when he got to the NBA, adding not just a handle, but one of the best handles I've ever seen. Like, I'm talking like a Kyrie handle. I'm talking like an Isaiah Thomas handle. That is next level, to be able to develop and to be such a hard worker. On top of that, he's the 4-time NBA champ. And you might say, well, he did it with Durant in 17 and 18. Correct. Then Durant left. And then, remember, Steph's 36, 33, 34 years old and 22. He won another title. And in that final, he won an MVP. The two previously, Kevin Durant had won the MVP, and this is what makes him even more fascinating. If he decided he wanted to win the finals MVP, he could have went off and done it, but he acquiesced. So 4-time NBA champ. He is a 2-time MVP in 15 and 16, 11-time All-Star, 4-time, now this is what matters, obviously, 4-time All NBA first team. He's 4-time All NBA second team and two All NBA third team. Last year, third team as a 35-year-old. You keep going. He's part of the 50-40-90 club. That's very exclusive in association circles. Obviously, 50% from the field, 40% from three, and 90% from the free throw line. Oh, by the way, he's 91% in his career from the free throw line. Oh, by the way, 5 years ago, he broke the three-point record as far as baskets made. We continue. He is a 1, 2, 3-time gold medal, if you care about that type of thing. NBA steals leader. 2-time NBA scoring champion. And I'm stopping because I just don't want to overwhelm you with stats. It's not a question. He is a top 10 player of all time. And if you're not putting him there, it's because you're being weird.
No, hold on. 40, you mentioned he broke the record for three-point attempts. 42.4% career three-point percentage. You look at the guys above him, and they're all great three-point shooters. Significantly more attempts from Curry. And I think that the thing about his story that blows your mind even more is when you go back to that 09 draft and you think about where he was selected, 7 overall. The big knock on him, other than the position, Patrick, I'll never forget, it was he had weak ankles. He has weak ankles, don't know how he's going to fill out, don't know if he can handle the grind of the NBA. Well, when I look at how that draft went, Blake Griffin went 1, Hasheem Thabit went 2, James Harden 3, Tyreek Evans 4, Ricky Rubio 5, and then this is where it gets fun. Sandwiched around Steph Curry, number 6, Johnny Flynn out of Syracuse and the Giants. The Knicks at number 8 overall took Jordan Hill out of Arizona. That's what Steph Curry was thought of when he entered the league, and I think some of that bias has held over despite all of his accomplishments because he wasn't the blue chip that everyone else thought he was. That no one saw this coming because he didn't go to Kentucky, he didn't go to Duke. I think that's still being held against him today.
12, 13, 14, 15. So 15 seasons in, he's 36 years old. So you're telling me that the ankles were a concern. Well, let's see if the ankles were an issue. Okay. He's essentially played 75 to 80 games every year.
Yeah.
Aside from last year when he was 36, he played 56 games with the injury. And then in 17-18, he played 51 games. Outside of that, he's pretty much played every game in his career. So the ankles haven't been an issue. You've seen him put on size. You've seen him. To me, it's almost like if you think about Josh Allen and what was the concern about Josh Allen coming out of college? Accuracy. Nobody improves upon accuracy. What was the concern about Steph coming out? Positionless, didn't have a handle. One of the great handles of all time. Turned into the greatest shooter of all time. I mean, it's a top 10 conversation is stupid. And if you're not putting him there, like you said, like Dustin said, there's a bias. There might be a bias because people thought he was rich and he had favoritism. I have no clue. There's bias against him because he's light-skinned. I'm just being real. It's ridiculous.
The question is, who are you putting in over him at 10? Because I think when it comes to eras, what Steph Curry's doing, you can replicate in other eras. What a lot of these other guys did that I mentioned earlier were 7 feet tall, and they were big, and they took up space, and the rest of the league was a lot smaller than them. They benefited from just being that size. You could place Steph Curry and his skill set in any other generation. He's a dominant player because he can score from anywhere on the floor. That's the thing that you can do over and over again with a guy like Steph Curry. He has overcome his limitations physically. He's overcome the lack of size that he has, and he's found a way to play off of that, to benefit from his size, and created a game based around that. I guess I wonder who's – because when I think top 10, if we're just going to take the bigs out of it, I don't know who you're taking over him in the top 10. Like KD? Would you rather have Steph or KD? You broke it down perfectly.
Well, you can ask KD. He went to join Steph.
Would you rather have Tim Duncan or Steph Curry? Steph Curry.
I don't even know how to compare those two positions, but I understand what you're saying.
But it's a guy that you can rely on to control the game, control the pace, control the score, control the flow, and when you need a shot late, you know he can make it from anywhere, which makes dialing up that final play that much easier.
Yeah, and you just made me think of something. He's thought of as ruining the game because of the three-point shot. One of the best at the basket finishers I've ever seen is Steph Curry. You understand what I'm saying? Going to the basket for his size. Obviously, we always talk about Isaiah Thomas and Kyrie Irving. But going to the basket, finishing around the rim at his size, he's one of the best to ever do it.
Old people are not going to like this. Steph Curry's better than Wilt Chamberlain. He's a better basketball player.
I don't know how to measure that.
He's better at playing basketball. Wilt Chamberlain was massive. That's what he had going for him. Also, conspiracy theorists like to let you know that not all those games were really recorded properly, so who knows how many points he was scoring. I know Steph Curry with my eyeballs dropping 50 the other night because it happened right in front of me. In terms of skill, as a skilled basketball player, Steph Curry's better than Wilt Chamberlain. Old people don't want to hear it, though.
Also, if the issue is Steph's size and position and that he's soft, he's rebounded his whole entire career. He'll give you 5 rebounds a game. So you can't really go there.
No, he's always done his own dirty work. He's not the best defender, but he's good. He's a good defender. He's not a negative defender.
Say hi to our buddy Tony in Detroit. It's VSiN Live. Hey, Tone.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, you were in the Discord. What'd you play
What do we
tonight?
have tonight? What do we have?
Man, I'm still waiting on it. I had Rangers and Capitals over 5.5, so we're going to the third. I think it's 2-1. So it's I thought I'd get a little more scoring out of the Rangers and Capitals.
All right, we
see
can
what
get
happens.
there. We can get there. Don't worry about it.
We're getting there. Hey, real quick, I guess I'm not an old head or a young head, but I got him. I mean, I know what you said about Wilt, but I got him right about 10. In their prime, you got to say obviously Jordan, LeBron, and Shaq and Kobe, Bird and Magic, okay, and then Duncan and Kareem. And I did throw Wilt in there. I'm just saying in their prime, who knows? I don't like the thought that people can't play in different eras. I think they would have adapted. So I would have him right at, I agree with you. I think he's right at 9-10. You know, if you took him in his prime and you had a draft of players. Now, the real question is, I mean, he's obviously the greatest point guard in the history of the NBA. Outside of Magic, Magic's just Magic.
Magic's in his own category as a point guard.
Yes, as his size. But he's the best small guard. Our boy Zeke is number 2, in my opinion. But I agree with you, Patrick. I think he's right about 9-10, right in there. You know, some people might take Durant, or Doggy would take Oscar. He would take Kuzi. He would take Havlicek.
Yeah.
He would take West. Okay, he'd have Curry about 25th. But no, he's transcended. He changed the game.
He did change the game. Hey, let's get a win for the Pistons tonight. And he changed the game. The handle, the ability to finish at the rim, the assists, and then we can mention the 3-point shooting. The Tony brought up unpopular opinion, because this generation, and where I live in Los Angeles, I mean this. I've never seen a city care more about an athlete, any sport, than LA cares about Kobe.
Yeah.
They adopted him. You can't drive 2 miles without seeing a Kobe mural in Los Angeles.
But I'd say they...
Hold on. Let me finish my thought. I have Kobe and Steph a wash.
That's a tough one. So I'll show you my list on camera right here. And I have Kobe at 8, Steph at 9, and I could have went the other way.
No. I'm fine with you putting Kobe ahead of him. No. I'm saying I've got him a wash.
No, but I'm saying that's the debate. I think he is right there with Kobe. And your point about LA, before his tragic passing, he was on a level I'd never experienced in the city I lived in.
It's crazy.
The love for Kobe Bryant. It took me a while to remember. We walked by him once at Dodger Stadium when we went. And I remember...
I don't remember that.
We were trying to get out while everyone was getting in because the game was about to start, and security stopped everyone in a hallway and in the concourse, and they just opened up a lane for him, and you watched everyone's head turn and jaws just drop at the sight of Kobe Bryant, literally like a god was in front of them.
Yeah, he's like a deity here. You're 100% right. By the way, speaking of the Lakers, and we'll come back and close tabs and get the hell out of here. Did you see? Now, I don't know if I'm getting got on Twitter, so I have to be careful. Did you see what Jeannie Buss apparently said about the Luka AD trade?
Anthony Davis? I did just see the quote during the show, but I wasn't sure if it was real. Let me see.
I'm seeing more credible people reporting it. So I'm just going to read the quote and say, who knows?
Via NPR, according to NBA Central, you should notice it's not Centel, the parody account.
I don't know, what does Centel mean? I've heard people say that.
It's supposed to look like the NBA. The NBA Central account is an aggregator who takes other people's work and puts it out there, makes money off of it. But they do get us the information. It's just you don't always get the full context. So sometimes it's salacious for clicks and for attention. Centel is the parody version of it that tricks people like fake Adam Schefter accounts.
All right, so this is being reported that Jeannie Buss, the owner of the Lakers, said, quote, "We gave up a lot to get Luka Doncic. We're happy with him. We're happy we have him, pardon me. We have lost the last 3 years in a row to the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs, and we really didn't have anything that was going to look different going into the playoffs again. Anthony Davis was complaining about where he was being played, and he wasn't happy. So I think this was a positive for both teams. They got what they were looking for. We got what we were looking for."
Okay.
It feels genuine because it's not overly vicious, but it's obviously taking a shot at, because AD was bitching about how he was being used.
It's real. New York Post ran with it. A bunch of other sites, I'm seeing Lakers Nation posted it, so it looks
that's
like
that's a great quote by Jeannie Buss. It's tremendous. She's saying AD couldn't stop bitching.
Yeah. Yeah, so everyone's like, all right, Dallas desperate to unload him here. Lakers go, all right, we got a guy who's unhappy. You're unhappy with your guy. Let's just swap them for each other.
The kill shot is the final sentence. They got what they were looking for. We got what we were looking for. By the way, that's such a troll. What they were looking for was Anthony Davis to play basketball, and he's done for the year. Great job, Jeannie Buss. Great job.
Great job,
888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. Closing tabs coming back. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
4 minutes.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson. Welcome back to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
All right, tight one in Mississippi. Number 4, Tennessee at Ole Miss. Tennessee up a point, 2:40 to play in the first, 35-34. Again, Maryland beat Michigan at Michigan, 71-65. And Florida, a big one, number 5 over number 7, Alabama, 99-94. We're going to get to closing tabs here in a second, but just let you know, VSiN's got the special offer. Again, go to VSiN.com/subscribe. And $158, 30 days. And you get all the free picks. Listen, I'm telling you right now, just sign up for the picks if you are a bettor, if you do like to dabble a little bit, because there's a lot. VSiN.com/subscribe. Promo code is serious.
Let me add, I believe that offer ends today. Ends today?
Oh, okay. Last day to get $1. Listen, you can afford $1.58 if you want to give it a try. And that will include March Madness's betting guide. So you get a lot for $1.58, including the splits and everything we offer. All right, Brandon, hit it.
It's time to wrap up today's show. You see what I did there? Yeah. By finishing all of the conversations we touched on today. This is Closing Tabs.
All right, it's time to close some tabs before we exit. Oh, shoot. Kings Nuggets slowing down. They scored 70. What did they score? 70 in the first, and they've slowed down. I got the over in that game. All right, let's close tabs. What do you got for me?
All right, I asked AI, has Sister Jean had sex based on our conversation earlier? Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt is a Catholic nun. She has taken a vow of chastity and therefore has not had sex. But technically, they don't know what she did before she took that vow. So
I was going to say, listen, if you've gone 105 years, and I'm not, listen, it's not my business, but like I said, that's a Cal Ripken-like run. She just never misses. Just shows up every day and commits to no dingling. What else?
Yeah, because definitely were options. Speaking of sex, so I pitched the segment for hockey with Aaron Halterman on the show as Puck Me Harder, I wanted to call it. I looked up Puck Me Harder. Unfortunately, the name's already taken by an adult film, Puck Me Harder, Power Play Off the Ice starring Ariana St. Clair.
All right, is that a favorite of yours?
I've never seen it, but I will do my homework later tonight. You mentioned Kylie Jenner and Timothée Chalamet and how he is a stepfather to her children. Did not realize she had not one but 2 children with Travis Scott. By the way, let's see if I can do this without falling. I'm wearing Travis Scott sneakers.
All right, the chat can see Dustin's chubby-ass feet.
Can't hold them up there that long.
Looks good. Looks good. It's always good. It's always good when you need to save money to spend money on sneakers.
These are fake. They are from China, so hopefully the tariffs do not affect me getting my fake Nike sneakers overseas. So their 2 children are named Stormy and Airy.
Hey, so we got a great Stormy at VSiN. She hosts the midday show, and she's awesome. Stormy Bonatoni.
This is Stormy with an I. That's Stormy with a Y. Very, very different names. Everyone knows that. We brought up the 0-1 Maryland team when Hayden was on the phone. Their national title squad led by Gary Williams. You look at the roster. Juan Dixon, pro. Chris Wilcox, pro. Steve Blake, an annoying pro, but a pro.
I remember Blake and Juan Dixon in particular. Juan Dixon actually ended up, I think he ran into some issues as a head coach that I can't get into on the air.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He did get into some trouble. That's right. Let's see. Some more news coming out. Happy Gilmore 2 will be released July 25th on Netflix. I know you're excited about that.
No, certainly not. Is Adam Sandler starring in Happy Gilmore 2?
Yes, he is.
Is that the I'm Bob
generation?
Is that I'm Bob Barker bitch or whatever?
Well, yeah, but Bob Barker's dead, so he will not be appearing unless it's AI.
I have seen Happy Gilmore 1, just to be clear.
Wow.
There was a generation where it was that and, Billy Madison or whatever, Bobby Madison. And those 2 movies for people that smoked pot, my dumb friends, those 2 movies were perpetually on. And I think Brandon back in New York. Brandon, you're 23. Here's what you need to do. Get a gummy and watch Happy Gilmore and let us know if you like it.
It's a 10 out of 10. It's a perfect movie. On Monday, I missed this story. Dolly Parton's husband died, R.I.P. His name was Carl Dean, 82 years old. How do I approach telling my girlfriend that Dolly Parton's on my list? and now
What
she's
list?
available. You know, you have a list of like if celebrities they ever become available that you can hook up with. How do I approach the conversation?
You got Dolly on the list?
Dolly Parton at 79 years old is still very much on top of the list.
Yeah, all right. Anything
Prefer
else
her to be
the
on
way
bottom, though. Prefer her to be on bottom.
All right, there he is, the big guy. What's the revelation to end the program? Certainly. Brandon, thank you. Ryan, thank you. All involved in the chat. Remember, go give us a thumbs up, subscribe at VSiN Live on YouTube. We'll see you tomorrow.
Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. And Dustin Swedelson.